and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another round in the story of the 10th season of the UKSimRacing community's GT3 League, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. And today marks the penultimate round of the season, and with it the final sprint race of the calendar. And we are here in the United States of America at the one and only road racing mecca that is the New York State circuit of Watkins Glen International. Affectionately known as the Glen, this is a circuit that has captured the hearts and imaginations of many a spectator and driver alike over its venerable history, having started off as what was a road racing circuit through the streets of Watkins Glen and the local village of Dix. It has gradually become a permanent racing circuit as of the 1950s and gone on to become perhaps one of the premier venues in the US of A. Whether it be Formula 1, GT World Challenge America, or indeed many other road racing classes, if it hasn't raced here, it's probably not worth watching. And with NASCAR coming to this circuit year in, year out amongst others, it is a circuit that continues to draw crowds like no other. And as our drivers make their way to the venerable asphalt today, they'll be taking on a circuit which encourages one of the highest average lap speeds that we will see on the schedule, with its 11 corners, extended straightaways and heavily cambered corners leading to thrilling action. And with a wide road racing surface, it does mean we can expect battles into every corner and perhaps battles that run the entirety of the lap side by side throughout. But as you get ready to watch the racing today, we welcome you via the official UKSimRacing YouTube channel, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, why not do so immediately, so that way you can stay up to date with all the latest broadcasts available at UKSimRacing for the official series. But as our drivers get set, in the commentary booth you have myself, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and I'll be bringing you all your racing action today, and indeed for the entirety of the season. And well, this is definitely going to be a fascinating one. But as we get set, there's a lot on the line tonight, and we start off by giving you a recap of the championship calendar so far and what still lies in wait. So we're now into round 7 of 8. We started off all the way back on the 2nd of April at the Red Bull Ring in Austria, and the similar connotations between the circuit in our season opener and our circuit for tonight, in the fact they both share a high average lap speed, albeit the differences at the Red Bull Ring is extended straights and heavy braking zones into slow corners. And at the Red Bull Ring we got to see some absolutely brilliant battling, and perhaps one of the moments of the season, Jacko Taylor's three-wide run up towards turn number 3 and making the double overtake for the win in the elite and overall category on the final lap. From the 2nd of April, we made our way a week later to Jerez in Spain for round number 2 on the 9th of April. And there, in what was covered by a post-round broadcast, we got to see our drivers absolutely charge around the newly introduced Spanish circuit. And indeed, whilst we did see our drivers fall a cropper to a number of corners, it was those who were able to keep it on the black stuff who came out on top. And the most notable moment, of course, in the AM class between Mark Johnson and his rival Steinar Sani, was Sani losing the rear end midway through the early stage of the race and losing out an opportunity to try and level the field versus Johnson. And then on the 16th of April, we wrapped up our first 3 sprints with a visit to Belle Isle in the city of Detroit in the state of Michigan in the US of A, our first visit to the United States. And then round 3 we got to see our drivers take on the task of the ultimate street circuit, and well, battling up and down the field, it was absolutely brilliant. And whilst we did have a few instances and the safety car or 2 had to be deployed, all of our drivers relatively came away from that one unscratched, and many scored major points in their championship campaigns. And then round number 4, for our first feature race of the season, we made our way to Germany for the one and only Nürburgring Gesamtstrecke. With a 24-hour endurance combined layout playing host to our drivers on the 23rd of April, it was an absolute thriller, but it was Håkon Grebstad at the front of the field who looked to be the outright winner until a mistake in the pit saw him pick up a penalty, and it was Sam Congreve who stormed on through to make it 4 winners in the elite category in 4 races, adding his name to history. Then we had our first mid-season break week, and then we came back on the 7th of May for round number 5 on its lonesome. And a Road America, well, in the picturesque Elkhart Lake countryside, we got to see our drivers absolutely deliver in a return to the racing action in the sprint there, battling it up and down the roads, surfaces, and Håkon Grebstad finally achieving his first win of the season in the elite class. But also there are other moments, including Mark Johnson's battling with Jack Wynn, which started off on a very positive note but ended in difficulty with the 2 drivers coming together, and it had ramifications for the championship. And of course, with Daniel Pace having such a strong performance at the Nürburgring in round number 4, he continued to lead the championship after round number 5 in the AM class. We then had our second mid-season break week before returning as the last time on the 21st of May for the Okayama International Circuit, also previously known as TI Ida in Japan. And then round number 6 in a sprint to be remembered, we saw plenty of battling between the Tiki SimSport drivers, including what was in particular Martin Tillin and company, but we also got to see it battling further down the field and a few drivers fall out of sorts with a circuit that caught out many, but Håkon Grebstad making it 2 wins in a row and therefore becoming our first repeat winner in the elite class. But it wasn't just about him with the pros Congroves and also the AMs also enjoying plenty of battles, and it means that our championships are on a knife edge as we go into the final 2 rounds of the season. It is Watkins Glen today on Sunday the 28th of May, and after today we will have the conclusion as of a week's time on the 4th of June at the Daytona International course, and there we'll get to see our drivers race around the Florida State circuit, and well, it's going to be an extended race, but who is going to come out on top at the Speedway? Well, we'll have to wait and find out then. It's definitely going to be a time to bring the curtain down, but as we get ready to go into the racing today, let's introduce our circuit. It is, of course, none other than the Watkins Glen International Circuit, and we are running the full boot layout. With this circuit located in the village of Watkins Glen in Schuyler County of the state of New York in the United States of America, originally opened up with the classic layout, which saw drivers race their way around, was a limited set of corners, and to put it in perspective, the boot section you see at turns 6 through to 9 did not originally exist when the circuit was originally conceived, but then it was added in order to spice up the racing, add extra length to the course, and the boot following shortly after the classic circuit, and our drivers will be taken on the full layout. That means they'll also be racing the bus stop chicane, which you can see between turns 4 and 5 with a level official corners, as we can see from the circuit map provided by iRacing.com. Thank you to them for their wonderful simulator and the circuit maps that come with it. It is a circuit which will see our drivers really be put through their paces, and consistency and bravery will be key in equal measure. Whereas they make their way across the start finish line down towards turn number 1, known as 90 right for the fact it is a right-hander or a right angle. They'll come through the right-hander and head up towards turns 2, 3 and 4. Barreling their way uphill through the S's, it's flat out in single file up through there, and if drivers do go too wide, then they'll need to back off because it gets narrow, relatively speaking, through turn number 3, but that's where we see our drivers trying to straight line between the apexes before charging out onto the first extended straight in the run down through turn number 4 up towards the bus stop chicane. They're powering their way up towards the outer loop. They'll make their way through the right into left complex, balancing the art of keeping the brakes steady and keeping their calm with the speed, and as they emerge from the bus stop chicane, it's in the run down through the outer loop, one of the most heavily cambered corners on the circuit, and they'll look to absolutely abuse that road camber to their advantage as they then head down towards chute. Coming down towards chute corner at turn at number 6, it's then all about going gentle on the brakes as they roll into the corner and going through 6 and down towards 7. It's an off-camber corner at turn number 6, and therefore we could see some drivers end up on the grass. But those who do not find their way up towards toe corner at turn number 7 and making their way into the boot, the proverbial shoe shape there, they'll come through the toes and out towards turn number 8 in the toe corner as well, having a lot of road camber to it, and therefore a corner where we can see our drivers go overly deep initially to go for a late apex and blast back onto full throttle. Next, down the back straight up towards hill at turn number 8, a tight corner and late apex, and as they make their way up the hill, they'll try to abuse as much of the runoff area as possible on the outside to carry all the speed into turn number 9, and there we'll see our drivers transition from the boot road surface back onto the classic road surface, and a little bump in the road may just catch out 1 or 2, you never know. As they exit turn number 9, is their short run up towards turn number 10, and we complete the final 2 corners of the circuit, turns 10 and 11, where it's the left into right, but the left-hander at turn number 10 having plenty of runoff area, albeit our drivers are need to be careful to be abusing that too much, otherwise they may pick up a drive-through penalty from the automated penalty system, but if they get it right, they'll carry all the speed up towards 11, and then it's barreling through the right-hander where there is no runoff area to speak of. It's a hard and cold wall, which they'll make impact with if they carry too much speed, but get it right, they'll be millimetres away from the exit wall, going on to the next lap to charge on through to victory. But that is Watkins Glen, and a circuit like no other in terms of the speed it brings to the racing. But as we go racing, let's give you a reminder of the rules as of today. Car setup wise, drivers are not permitted to change their car without penalty as of this point forwards. In fact, that rule was enforced as of the end of round number 3. Car fuel load wise, they've been restricted to 45% for all races, including this one. Qualifying wise, a closed qualifying format shall be used, and we'll take you through the schedule very shortly. But what does closed qualifying mean for the uninitiated? It means that all of our drivers will be out on the circuit in separate instances of the Watkins Glen circuit, so they won't have to worry about dealing with any company. They're out there by the lonesome and have the time to put in their own laps, and drivers shall have 4 laps or 10 minutes, whichever one is expired first, and we are going to expect it to be the 4 laps that expires first, with a lap time here of 1 minute and 3/4 of a minute, so it'll take them up to approximately 9 minutes to set their best possible time, but they do have some extra minutes there if they need to use them. Now additionally, when we come on to the races, And the races shall commence via a double-file rolling start, as is the tradition of the UKSimRacing GT3 League. There are no mandatory pit stop requirements. However, that's not to say our drivers will not be coming into the pit with the restriction of the 45% fuel tank, and we are normally expecting there to be at least one pit stop in the sprint races. Each driver has one fast repair available should they be involved in an incident and they need to take repair work, and all race stewarding shall be conducted post-race. There is no live race stewarding. Sprint race-wise, of course today being a sprint race, a driver shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 17 or more instant points. points. If they continue to be naughty, they'll go up to 25 instant points, and at that point they get disqualification from the race. But that's enough rules, regulation, everything in between. You're here for the racing, and as we get ready to go racing, let's take you through the schedule. Times in British summertime, that's BST or Universal Coordinated Time +1, UTC +1. And as we can see, in just under 10 minutes time, we'll head into the qualifying session. 10 minutes in duration. All the drivers heading to lone instances of the circuit and looking to absolutely deliver a knockout blow in terms of qualifying time, and it could be critical given the fact the championships now are really starting to wind down. Meanwhile, then we head on towards the sprint race, a one and only race today, and that'll follow immediately after qualifying. That'll be at 8 this evening, 45 minutes in duration. Flat out our drivers will go, with that pit stop also a consideration. We are expecting a stop for fuel, but perhaps they'll change tyres, perhaps they won't. We'll have to wait and see who's going to be bold, and that'll be the racing. But it is a lovely day today here at Watkins Glen on the simulator. 20 degrees ambient temperature, and that is centigrade, and currently the track temperature at 19 degrees and gradually rising as we're to understand it, but we'll have to wait and see how that track temperature does shape up. Indeed, it's not too hot in its picturesque conditions, but as our drivers get ready to go, well, we do look to Håkon Grebstad making his way out of the pit lane here, the Racing Lab AM driver in the Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo, as he powers on around. As he heads up the hill, will get himself comfortably set here as all our drivers just gradually making their way on through and around the circuit in this final practice session. And we do say hello to a good number of you in the YouTube chat, including but not limited to Carl McGurk, who says good luck everyone. Also to Alan Lever, who says good luck all. We also have there Alexander Hill, or Xander Hill as he's also known, who says good evening and good luck all. I won't be racing tonight, exhausted after this weekend. And well, it's understandable why Mr. Hill is exhausted, as he's just been competing in the Daytona UK 24-hour karting endurance event with the official UKSimRacing Motorsport team, and congratulations to them on their achievements. And I can imagine right now the UKSimRacing drivers out on the circuit today on the simulator, including Rob Armstrong for UKSimRacing Hunt, will be looking to emulate the achievements of their real-world motorsporting counterparts, if not go one step further. But we'll have to wait and see if they're able to do that, and indeed it is going to be a challenging one for all of our drivers. We should point out, if you're in the chat right now and you haven't said hello, don't be shy, feel free to say hi. We don't quite hear in UKSimRacing, and I can promise you I don't bite in the commentary booth, and you're welcome to say hello and let us know who you're cheering on. Let us know how your weekend's going on, and if you are in the UK, of course, it's a bank holiday weekend, so why not let us know what you're up to with the extra day off tomorrow, with being bank holiday Monday. But as we see the clock there at the top centre of your screen, currently 8 minutes to go before we head into qualifying. All our drivers getting themselves comfortably set, and what can we garner from what we can see out there? Well, right now Daniel Payne in the AM class, currently the fastest driver in AM in terms of time set. We do have to keep in mind, of course, this is practice. We can't read too much into the times, but the key thing here is that the old dudes in cars driver, who you'll remember the quote from the Nürburgring, he wanted to win at Nürburgring because of the circuit very personal and dear to him. It's his local circuit, which he spent a lot of time driving around in the real world as well as on the simulator, and he felt as though he wasn't in contention for the AM Championship. But after a couple of rounds, where we've definitely seen him continue the momentum, he finds himself going into tonight 4 points behind Mark Johnson in the AM Championship. And we're not going to give you a full recap of the championship standings. In fact, we'll show you the standings provisional after the racing today. But to give you a summary, it's Johnson who leads in the AM class with Pace 4 points behind, and he'll be looking to try and find a way to usurp Johnson, given the fact Mark Johnson will not be here today. And therefore, it is an open door for a new winner or another repeat winner in the AM class. But the thing about Pace is he's got a lot of pressure coming from behind, given that within 16 points of him are the trio of John Doble, Matt Maddox and Stein Arsani, and they all want to take wins of their own. Of course, John Doble already a winner this season for TT Sim Sport Kimmy, taking that infamous win at Belle Isle, if my memory serves me correctly, and he'll be looking to go even faster today, will the American. And we do look to Matt Maddox, meanwhile, in the Porsche 911 GT3R as well for BDM Racing, as he powers his way on through turn number 4, their beautiful camera angles. They come off of the curb and down the stretch they go as he heads into the bus stop chicane. The Britain rolling his way on through there, and it's going to be interesting today in terms of how the machines line up against one another. We are expecting there to be quite a shift in terms of relative performance of cars, with the Porsche potentially being a bit of a dice roll around here, in the fact it's very strong through the corners by default, does not normally have the strongest top end speed, but if it's able to use all the rotation, we should say the driver's able to use the rotation of the car to maximum effect, then we may actually see the Porsches going very well here, for the simple reason they may not have the acceleration in top gear, but they can stay at a higher average speed from corner to corner, corner, and therefore their straight line speed deficit is not as heavily noticed compared to some other cars. But as we do see Maddox making his way down the back straight, we do look to Peter Cox meanwhile in the UKSimRacing at Moss BMW M4. And in the Pro Championship right now, the battle is on with Peter Cox leading the way, and Nathan Scott's absence in Japan despite Cox's disastrous day at Okayama, meaning that the gap now stands at 12 points between Peter Cox, who is your championship leader, and Darren Sharples, who has moved into second. And well, Darren Sharples currently in the pit lane, and here he is gradually making his way on down pit lane, and the privateer in the 777 machine in the Audi R8 LMS GT3, and it has been a car that many have not picked this season because it is quite an unstable machine. But Sharples looking absolutely glued to the tarmac whenever he takes it around, and will Sharples delivering that last time out at Okayama, and can he deliver again today and continue that fight to bring Peter Cox into region to be able to go hunting in the season finale? That will be his task, but Sharples could yet potentially spring a surprise, and if he's able to get one step ahead, well, what's it going to be at Daytona? It could be even Stevens. But that's the story in the Pro class, and also one name who really is standing out at the moment. He's the fastest man in Pro practice currently on a 43.050. It is the McLaren MP4 12C driver in the Unicorn machine, given how rare it is to say, and unicorns of course being a creature of mythology that are exceedingly rare. But Eric Rosev making his way through turn number 7 there at the toe corner, and the Norwegian right now looking very fast. He was absolutely flying at Okayama, and as he makes his way on down towards turn number 8, well, right now he'll be looking to make sure that V8 with bi-turbo machine is able to take victory, and with an advantage of what is only 8 thousandths ahead of Thomas Aspal. I would imagine that it's going to be very close between the two of them. But as they make the way on around here, and well, I should apologise for butchering the pronunciation of Mr. Apshaupt's surname, and it is there correctly pronounced this time. The Racing Lab Am driver in the Ferrari in the number 26 car, making his way on through what is their turn number 10, and into the pit lane he goes via 11. Our drivers having to be very selective with regards to when they come into the pits, and having to keep the car tight to the apex of turn number 11. And it's one of a limited number of circuits on the calendar where we do have a pit lane entry which is on the tarmac at the same point, where drivers could be going through the corner on the tarmac, rather than normally we have a pit lane that diverges off from the racing line. But indeed here it is on the racing line, and therefore that will be a point of contention when we do go racing. But we're giving you an update on the AM and the Pro classes, but one thing we've forgotten to do is an update on the Elite class. And as we see Ryan Davis at UKSimRacing making his way down towards what is their turn number, I do believe turn number 8 there, coming through hill corner, and well, my memory is served correctly there, as we now get the uphill run in towards turn number 9. The UKSimRacing driver in the hunt for what is the top 5 in the championship, but meanwhile it's Håkon Grebstad who's currently the fastest driver out there overall and in what is the Elite class, and he's parked up in the pit lane. The Ignition Motorsport driver can't see him too well as he's parked behind John Doble there, and Eric Rosev behind him, but the Norwegian are currently leading the way by 16 points over Sam Congreve, and it's our understanding we're not going to be seeing the driver of Sam Congreve from Empire Motorsport returning this season due to personal circumstances. So Håkon Grebstad can really put this championship out to tender with regards to the fact it'll be all in his hands today if he's able to make it a 3rd victory in a row. But drivers will try and stop it, include Ryan Davies and also likes of Nathan Foster, as we see the Empire Motorsport B driver coming on through at turn number 8 there in the wonderful white, black and light blue Porsche machine, and with the Empire Motorsport logo standing proud. Well, now he's going to be looking to try and make up where the absence of Congreve may have left behind. But as he heads into a turn at number 10, we are still what is 3 minutes away, in fact 2 minutes away now from going into qualifying, as we do say hello there to Stargur Living, who says today Racing Lab Am is going for the triple in the Pro cars. We're going for what is the top step, the 2nd step, and also the 3rd and final step of the podium, and we look forward to seeing how that goes. And right now it definitely looks as though in the Pro practice session here it is a strong contention there for Racing Lab Am, and can they pull it off? That'll be the challenge that confronts them. Ivan Breivik there currently with 3.5 attempts off of the fastest driver in the Pro class of Eric Rosev, and as he makes his way down through turn number 5 and in towards 6 he goes, getting himself set, and what we look forward to seeing whether Racing Lab Am can make their plan a reality. Now, some of you may have noticed on the right-hand side of the screen, we do have a new little logo that's going to be appearing for this broadcast and also the season finale. It is a thank you logo, which has been put together by one member of the community who's racing as part of the series. I do believe it was put together by Brandon Hay, who you'll see racing for Newbridge Esports in the privateer machine, and he's in the BMW M1. We saw plenty of battling from him at Okayama last week, battling to hold on to what is his best performance of the season, being on the podium of the Pro class, but he's put it together in multiple colours, both in white and black, for drivers to potentially run on their liveries if they so desire, because of course, being the 10th season of the GT3 League, this is a special milestone for us at UKSimRacing. We have gone from strength to strength over the course of the history of this series, and right now celebrating the 10th season, and our drivers definitely have appreciated it, and we can tell that you guys and girls tuning in have definitely appreciated all the racing action thus far, so therefore thank you to Brandon for putting the logo together there, and that's going to stay as a little artifact on screen for the remainder of the season's broadcast, where applicable. But as we do see Rob Armstrong bouncing his way up through the bus stop chicane, and you can see that Mercedes absolutely roaring through with the 6.3 litre V8 engine naturally aspirated, and as he makes his way out to turn number 5 and down towards 6. Well, I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, when you're in person with one of these roaring on past you, they absolutely deafen you with that guttural roar. And right now Rob Armstrong, I think, absolutely loving that machine as he heads his way up towards when it's turn number 7. But as he gets himself set, we are only moments away now from going into the qualifying session and getting ourselves comfortably set here. Check a flag out and practice. It's time to put pace where it's put pace in its place. When it's qualifying, who is going to come out and pole? Let's find out. As our drivers make their way out into the circuit, it's 10 minutes and 4 laps within it, plus also the out lap, and who will be the pole sitter come the end of it? Well, Reece Saunders, one of a number of drivers to get out there immediately, and well, some drivers are able to get out a little bit faster than others, and let's contextualise that a little bit in the fact that most of our drivers, given this an open setup series, they'll most likely have what is their qualifying setup or their low fuel setup, and they'll also have their race setup. And I believe that some drivers will have been running their qualifying setup by default before coming to the end of the practice session, and therefore they can just simply get back into the car. Qualifying setup is automatically loaded, and therefore you charge out. Now, it's a little bit of time save. In terms of the relative time it actually saves you, perhaps in the region around 20 to 30 seconds. We're not expecting qualifying to be too tight here, given the fact the lap time's under 2 minutes. Our drivers should have plenty of time to get all 4 laps on the board, but every second matters potentially. If you feel as though there could be a risk of you getting it wrong, and you may need to reset to the pits at some point. As Saunders makes his way down through turn number 6 and into 7, what can we expect from qualifying today is the question in terms of who or which machines are expected to be right up there. Well, it does look as though, based on the practice times, it's going to be a bit of an open season. We have seen the Porsches going very strongly in the elite class, albeit we do have a lot of Porsche machinery in the elite class to boot. We have got a grand total of what is, I do believe, 6 drivers in the elite class attending today. In the AM class, we have a grand total of what is 8 drivers, and then in the Pro class, we have a grand total of 12 drivers. So the Pros are going to be very popular on the field compared to the other 2 classes, but the key point being around here, it does seem as though most cars have a good opportunity to do very well at the Watkins Glen circuit. I think it's all going to come down to driver ability rather than the ability plus the choice of machine, and the balance of performance keeping most of the machines well in check. But as we do see it, Cox doing a bit of weaving there, going down the back straight in towards Hill Corner, getting himself set to go on to his first flying lap and trying to get as much tyre temperature as possible here. Well, in qualifying it's not going to be a matter, but in the race we are expecting there to be a need to potentially change where's the left-hand side tyres, given the fact this Watkins Glen circuit being clockwise and very focused around heavily cambered right-hand corners, where those left side tyres are going to be absolutely nullified in terms of their grip come the end of the session. But as Cox makes his way out of the final corner and onto a lap, we do jump on board here for a flying lap of the Watkins Glen International circuit. Heading his way down towards turn at number 1, and as he brakes there just after the 100-yard board, coming down to third gear through 90 right, 2 wheels on the exit curve there mean the lap is still valid, and as he powers his way up the hill through the S's now, keeping it nice and tight to the apex curve, but not stepping onto the curbs there to avoid destabilising the car, as he makes his way through 3 and into 4, flat out all the way as he heads onto the first extended straight. Now getting ready for the bus stop chicane, he'll look to his left-hand side for the yardage boards, now acts as his brake markers as he brakes down from 162 miles an hour all the way down to 4th gear, sends it from left into right here, and now into turn number 5, lets the car drift into the middle of the road, turning early, and getting nice and tight to the apex curve on the power. 4th gear as he heads out, using plenty of runoff space there, as he heads down towards turn number 6, braking down into the chute corner, down to 3rd gear, wait for it, and then build up the throttle and power out, as he now makes his way up towards toe corner at 7. Here you can brake extremely late, braking at the 100-yard board, letting the car go for as late as possible apex through trail braking, and as he makes his way to the apex, now back on the power, putting wheels up beyond the road surface there, and now up towards turn number 8, charges, or down we should say, as the road gradually drops away, and braking a little bit early here at the 200-yard board, down to 3rd gear, nice early apex, get on the power, use the runoff area, they're allowed to do so as long as they don't tip 2 wheels onto the grass, and as he makes way into turn number 9, a late apex here, you can see fighting with the understeer of the car, road surface transition as well on the apex, causing the car to become a little bit unsettled as he makes way into turn at number 10, turning on in, 4th gear into 10, and now bringing the car over to the left hand side for turn number 11. Will he drop to 3rd gear? No, he just simply stays in 4th there, decides to go for the higher gear to give him the ability to get on power sooner, and that is a lap of the Watkins Glen International Circuit, brought to you by Peter Cox, and he comes to the timing line. What's it going to be for his first lap on the board? Well, it's a good one, it's a 43.630, and that is a 10th faster than what anybody else has been able to achieve thus far, albeit we've got a lot of time remaining here, and a lot of laps remaining for our drivers. They've only completed the first quarter of their allotted lap total, based on relative pace, and meanwhile, we look from Peter Cox to current Elite Championship leader Håkon Grebstad as he makes his way up the hill through the S's once again, and Grebstad on a 42.810 for his first lap as he absolutely roars the car now down towards the bus stop chicane, and here for Grebstad it's all about carrying that speed, but to be fair, he's gone so well in this Porsche machine all the way through the season. He's just been able to master the art of balancing that rear end with the need for rotation, and the Porsche being the car of course with the engine located so close to the rear axle. It's a mid-engine rear-wheel drive machine, but you could argue it's more towards a rear-engine rear-wheel drive machine given how far back the engine is behind the driver, and as he comes down through turn number 6 and in towards 7, number 37 driver here from Ignium Motorsport, definitely looking to be on an absolute flyer for his second lap of the day. Meanwhile, looking to the AM class with Daniel Bays as he heads out of what is their turn at number 7 very shortly, running still in the anime livery, carrying that over from Okayama last time out, and as he heads down towards the next corner of Hill, where he's currently the fastest driver in the AM class. And well, this of course is the major opportunity for him to really put the pressure onto Mark Johnson come Daytona next week in the season finale, where he'll try and level up the playing field. But I do wonder, in the absence of Johnson, whether we may see some other drivers rise to the occasion and try to upset the momentum that Pace is trying to achieve, including the likes of Stephen Andre Livingston, who's just gone fastest in the AM class. But as we see Pace head to the end of the lap, he's backed off, he's going to get ready to go again, so not happy with that lap. He sets up the run through turn number 11, and the Mercedes driver now gets himself set as he roars past the board there, and indeed our stationary camera in the wall on the exit barrier absolutely shaking and quaking at the speed that Mercedes as it gets out of the corner. But looking from him back up to what is Nathan Foster, the elite driver, P4 in the elite class right now, and what is P5 overall, going on to his second flying lap. So he's decided to delay his qualifying session to a degree, give himself a bit more time. As we say hello there to Satinda Dinsa in YouTube chat, says good luck to all the Tiki team. I'll be back for the final round in Daytona, and we look forward to seeing you there, Satinda. What is going to be an absolute thriller of a finale, there's no question about that. We're glad to see all the Tiki Simsport crew is not able to make it today, tuning in via the YouTube broadcast, and Will Foster heading on through turn number 7 at the moment, goes a bit deep there, and that understeer is going to haunt him. In fact, he's carrying a bit too much speed. I don't think the understeer really came into the car, looked to turn comfortably, but just a bit too much speed, and therefore missing his apex. And as he heads down the back straight, well, he's going to feel as though this will be a lap that's not going to improve, and therefore he's going to have to try and do it all with the 2 laps he's got left. But has he given himself enough fuel to go for at least one more lap, or will he need to come into the pit and do a reset? And with that, he will lose a lap in this qualifying session. Keeping in mind that once our drivers have finished their warm-up lap, they are then biting into their available laps, and if they reset to the pits once they're on a qualifying lap, they lose that lap out of the 4 available to them, and then you have to do a warm-up lap on your next out lap, so you effectively lose 2 laps in time as he heads through turn number 11, and he'll go again and head on towards the timeline here. Foster definitely not improving that time around. Meanwhile, current provisional pole sitter in the pro class, P5 overall, it's none of Thomas Asphaug as he makes his way in towards turn number 5 in the Ferrari 488 Evo, and coming on through the right-hander, making sure the now old V8 Ferrari engine replaced with the 296 with 6-cylinder as of 2023. Well, the old machine here still in iRacing, makes way down for the left-hander and up towards turn number 7 he goes. And will this machine still being raced in the real world in a good number of series? And right now, still a valuable contender in the Pro class is the Ferrari, and Asphaug behind the wheels, up behind the steering wheel of it, we should say, as he heads down the back straight and get himself set. But he'll need to try and raise the bar 4 tenths faster than anybody else in the Pro class currently. Peter Cox will try to respond to this, there's no doubt about it. Meanwhile, John Doble currently P6 in the AM class. I see him cross the timing line, does not improve in believing the validated lap, so he's going to have to try and get it all done on one more. But with only 1.5 minutes left, most of our drivers now will need to finish their laps, because when the clock strikes 10 minutes, the laps our drivers are currently on will be immediately aborted. They'll come back into the pits and get ready to go to the grid. But as Asphaug makes his way out to the final 2 corners here, can he go faster? Can he raise the bar in the Pro class and potentially get, oh goodness me, and a brief tap to the wall there, and that's upset the momentum of the car entirely, and well, carrying a bit too much speed. And now as he heads down towards turn number 1, I think there he just pushed it too hard to try and raise the bar over further, and has he pushed it too hard, and now will Cox find a way to come through? We'll have to wait and see, as meanwhile we do look here to Livingston making his way out to the final corner. The Racing Lab AM driver heading towards the timing line, but I think flashes lights there, knowing it's all said and done for him. He's not improving, and he is only a tenth faster than Daniel Pays. Is Pays going to go faster? Well, Pays has parked up. He's not happy with that lap, so Livingston looking as though he may have this, as meanwhile Maddox goes on to another lap, but he's not going to have the time. Nathan Foster moves up to P4 in the elite class, but Håkon Grebstad stays provisional pole in the elite class. And with 600 between him and Martin Tillin, I think he's got this done. He is currently on an absolutely phenomenal lap. It's gone purple in the first 3 subsectors, but he's not going to have time to deliver the rest of it. But I don't think he's going to mind that, given that Foster and Norquette, who are still out there, are not towards the end of their laps. So it'll be Håkon Grebstad on overall and elite pole, and then behind them in P6 overall, it'll be Thomas Asphaug in pro pole, and then it will be for pole position in the AM class, Simon Andre Livingston, who starts P14. Checker flags out in qualifying. It's now time for us to go racing. So our drivers make the way to the grid. This is how they line up for round 7 of 8 in the UKSimRacing GT3 League Season 10, brought to you on iRacing. Håkon Grebstad takes pole position for Ignium Motorsport overall and in the elite class by 600 from Tiki Simsport Corpus Martin Tillin. On row number 2, it's Ryan Davis for Tiki Simsport Kimi, who is joined by their Empire Motorsport B's Nathan Foster. And then we have on row number 3, Darren Norquette starting P5 for Racing Forces, and he is joined by Thomas Asphaug, your pro pole sitter for Racing Lab AM. Behind them on the full fry of the grid, it's the elite driver Reece Saunders, a P7 for him, a good qualifying performance for the Team Year 1 Privateer, and he is joined in P8 there by Peter Cox from UKSimRacing Moss, who in the end was almost half a second of Asphaug's pole time in the pro class. Definitely for the UKSimRacing Moss driver, he's got a lot of work to do if he wants to try and find a way through. Then completing the top 10 on row number 5, it's the Newbridge Esports Privateer of Brendan Hay, who is joined by Oyvind Breivik, the Racing Lab AM driver, and these 2 pro drivers are going to go toe-to-toe into turn 1. I can feel it. Eric Roseff will be starting off your 6th row P11 best of the rest. The McLaren driver had a lot of pace in practice, but it didn't come through in qualifying, and Rob Armstrong starts alongside him for UKSimRacing Hunt P12. Then on the 7th row of the grid, it'll be the partnering of Darren Sharples, the privateer, who is joined by in P14, your pole sitter in the AM class, Simon Andre Livingston from Racing Lab AM1. Congratulations to him on pole position in class. Daniel Page starts P15, and with that on the 8th row for Old Dudes in Cars, joined there by Matt Maddox of BDM Racing, and the delta between the two of them 2 tenths, but I think Maddox will try and get the run in towards turn number 1. Matt Strand starts off your 9th row for Racing Lab AM, joined by the privateer of Richard Jones, and then we have completing the top 20 on the 10th row of the grid, the AMs of James Connolly, the privateer, and Steinar Sunny for Racing Lab AM1. Behind them, then starting off the 11th row, it'll be John Doe for Tiki Simsport Kimi, and James Rankin for CHR Motorsport, and then behind them it'll be Paul Robson, who starts on your 12th row for CHR Motorsport, behind Rankin, and it seems as though the two of them, when they are on circuit together, they always qualify together, and will they break the tradition of finishing together? And Marvin Cruz starts P24. Then we're further behind, we have on the 13th and final ride of the grid, Thomas Barjuk, P25, joined by Casper Brotner, P26 for Old Dudes and Cars, the only driver not to get a lap on the board in qualifying, and Brotner will start from the back of the grid. Can he cut his way through? Will time will tell as we look down the order to Casper Brotner and Paul Robson there, but as they get underway and very shortly make the way on around this formation lap, all the drivers are now set and comfortable and ready to go, but who is going to be coming out on top come the end of the formation lap? In the run down towards turn number 1, which is going to be an interesting one because the drivers will be starting on the start and finish straight. They have been briefed by race control that they are to ignore the iRacing automated green flag, which says that they can go racing on the final corner if the leader decides to do so. There is a start zone and it runs from what is just beyond the exit curb of the final corner all the way down towards the start finish line, and Håkon Grebstad will be the one who dictates when exactly we do go racing. But meanwhile we jump on board with Matt Strand here in P8 in class, P15 overall, and the pro driver here just getting himself comfortably set there in formation, tucked in behind Daniel Page, and will can Strand find a way to build his way up through the order with Sharples not too far ahead of him, and the Audi drivers, whilst they did look quite strong in practice, not quite able to find the time in the qualifying session. But qualifying is a challenge in of itself because you only have a limited amount of time, and that's the thing with the practice session, it's an hour long, you have plenty of time to try and find a lap. Meanwhile in qualifying, when you've only got 4 laps or 10 minutes, it does get to you a bit, and I'll put my hand up as a fellow sim racer and say I really struggle with qualifying given the fact you've got that time pressure on you, but some drivers in return do enjoy making up place in the race. They feel better when they've got tasks to hunt, but I think for Strand he's giving himself a lot of targets to hunt, as meanwhile as he makes his way out of turn number 6 and down towards 7 they go. We look from them towards the front of the pro field, and in particular to Peter Cox here, who with Brandon Hay alongside him. Can Brandon Hay go even further and make it another podium today? Both of them do have a bit of a gap to Thomas Asphaug ahead of them, the Racing Lab AM driver, who you can see there, the colorations of the red and white machine from Norway making its way on down towards turn number 8 now at Hill Corner, and well, he'll be hoping just to pull away and glide away off into the distance, and we know how strong that Ferrari straight line speed is. We have seen it all season, just able to charge away as we get ready to go race now. Only a couple more corners to go, and well, let's just take a quick look at the weather, and as we can see there, an ambient of 19 degrees centigrade, track temperature 21 degrees centigrade. It's a partially cloudy day, it's a pleasant day to go racing, and as Håkon Grebstad makes its way out of the last couple of quarters very shortly, the safety car will peel away and it'll be time for us to go racing, and well, who out of our drivers will come out on top when all is said and done? It's all going to be dictated over a 45-minute race, and the Indian Motorsport driver Håkon Grebstad will take us to the green shortly for round number 7. And he goes at a moderate pace here. As Grebstad, as they charge their way down towards turn 1, it's lights out, away we go. And meanwhile behind already, David's banding up the inside, Nathan Foster into turn 1. But as they all come through, the field just gradually staggering itself. A lot of drivers going too wide into 90 right, but most of them surviving it for the first corner as they make their way up through the S's this time. Now it's cold tyres plus dirty air of the car in front. You've got to be careful through here for the simple reason if you fall off line through 2, you're going to struggle even more through turns 3 and 4. And Rosette falling victim into Peter Cox, who's trying to go round the outside as they make their way out towards the bus stop chicane. We had an instant further back. John Doble's gone around, but he's the only one to fall victim to the S's on the opening lap. But as all our drivers come roaring on through the bus stop chicane, we'll take a look back at that instant very shortly, but Cox falls back in behind. Meanwhile, further back down the order, we do look to Matt Strand, who trying to look round at what is there, the outside of Richard Jones, but Jones fending him off as they come out of turn number 5, down towards 6 and in towards the next braking zone. But Strand now trying to build the momentum, looks for a snipe potentially into the inside. Here he goes, a win for it, but loses the car, and as he does, he collects Jones, and the Heinz Racing driver sent to the wall, and Strand rolls backwards but tries to get the car off the racing line as soon as possible. A small mistake there from Strand and costly for the pair of them. But meanwhile, looking from them back up towards the front of the field, Will Davies, having gained a little bit of ground versus Nathan Foster, fend off the Empire Motorsport B driver into turn number 1, another TE Simsport Kimi driver. Once again following after Martin Tillin, and we saw these two battle hard into the opening corner at Okayama last week. Well, right now not battling as hard against one another here today, but as they make their way up towards turn number 10 and in towards 11, they stay line of stern for now as they come into the final 2 corners of this opening lap. But still, it's been a relatively clean opening lap here at Watkins Glen, and always a question mark as to whether the field will survive the run through the S's. seen in real world motorsport just as much on the simulator. But after one lap, it is Håkon Grebstad who leads at Indian Motorsport by 1.2 seconds over Martin Tilling P2. The gap already pronounced. Tilling P2, followed by Davids P3. Next, Nathan Foster P4, Darren Orkett P5, followed by Reece Saunders in P6 in the elite class. But between the term, it's Thomas Aspel, your pro leader, who then has Brandon Hay behind him, P7 overall. And then we do have Eric Rosa behind Saunders in P9 overall, followed by Peter Cox in complete shot top 10. Best the rest, Oyvind Breivik P11. As all the drivers make their way onto the stretch, down towards the bus stop chicane this time. Everybody just in a line. And I think right now, most drivers settling into a little bit of a peaceful fashion here. Although I think one driver doesn't want peace, he just wants to make outright places. It's Paul Robson for CHR Motorsport as he's lost sight of James Rankin. And well, with the two at CHR Motorsport BMWs not together, with Rankin's been able to get ahead, then very shortly Robson will follow as they make the way down through turn number 5. But Robson there catching a wind of understeer coming out the corner, and meanwhile Maddox just simply defending, and the AM driver here playing it smart as they roll on through. And we bring up the battle box in the bottom right corner of your screen so you can stay in touch with who's who on screen as they battle around one another. But Robson looking to the outside here, Maddox defends, and as they come through toe corner, well, Robson will find himself now looking for the cutback, and he's going to get a lot of momentum here as Robson. The CHR Motorsport BMW absolutely planted on exit. Maddox nailed it as well, but here's the difference in terms of acceleration. Maddox not carrying enough speed in towards Hill. Robson on the inside. I think this is going to be a standard pass as they make the way out. Maddox will try and cut it back onto the outside of 9, but Robson there getting all the momentum he needs and gets them the move done in plenty of time. But as they make the way through turn number 9 and in towards 10 and 11, meanwhile looking from them back up to Brandon Hay. Right now the privateer has got building pressure from behind, and Reece Saunders trying to get closer to him as we look back from the rear of the 96 BMW. Now as they head down towards turn number 1, it is going to be the battle of the two German Bs here, with the BMW having a little bit less top end speed by comparison with the Mercedes, and the Mercedes able to get to that top end speed faster with British acceleration. But as they come out to in towards Frey, the BMW a much more stable car by comparison on low speed corners. They come out to 3 into 4. We can see that Saunders getting closer and closer, and that Evo grill absolutely grinning now as they make the way up towards the bus stop chicane. Saunders is going to look onto the inside. It's a battle on the brakes. Hay turns in, but Saunders clears him as they make the way out to the chicane. It's a nice move from Reece Saunders, and now he'll go chasing after the pro leader of Aspel as they make the way on down and through turn number 5 into the shoot. But as they drop down, meanwhile further up the road from them, we can see that Darren Orkett in the Racing Forces BMW, he finds himself still trying to chase down Nathan Foster, but can't quite find the places at the moment. Meanwhile, we have had a move for what is P5 in the AM class between Marvin Cruz and Thomas Barjot, with Cruz gaining the place. I believe Barjot making a small mistake at the bus stop chicane and cost him dearly, albeit we'll try and get a bit of validation that very shortly for you. But as I drive the head up towards where it's turn at number 8, once again it is a relatively sedate start to the racing here. I think drivers are trying to pick off places one by one and building, and I do wonder whether a lot of drivers are focusing on tyre management in this one, because we are expecting those left side tyres to take an absolute bruising, and the right side tyres won't be too far away from a potential wear either. But meanwhile, we look to Richard Jones here after the incident earlier on, now trying to make headway in his first target is to pick up 2 AM drivers in the form of Thomas Barjot and Marvin Cruz as he looks up the rear there of the Cookie Monster machine. But as they head out of turn at number 9 in towards 10, well, Barjot right now just holding to his racing line and keeping calm and carrying on, and the Honda's racing up machine of Jones right now. 90's not got the most time in the world in order to try and make this recovery, given the fact he's got 2 AMs to pass, and then he'll have his first target of Casper Brotner in P10 in the Pro class, P20 overall as they head down towards turn number 1 on lap number 4 of racing. But as they head in towards the next braking zone, we look from them back to a little bit of footage from earlier on in particular. In fact, we pause that full, ladies and gents, because we do have Brandon Hay under a bit of pressure here from always Aaron Rosa. This is a P2 in the Pro class, and Hay defending in the middle of the road. Rosa trying to find the space, can't quite find it at the moment, and Peter Cox only 2.5 attempts off of this. So we do have a triumvirate of drivers who are all trying to fight for that second spot on the podium. Meanwhile, Aspel by comparison 2 seconds up the road and being allowed to manage its race comfortably, as Cox behind looks up the inside, takes a little sneak preview versus Rosev, trying to get into the eyes and ears of the Mercedes, not the Mercedes, the McLaren driver behind, but there Rosev not paying it any mind and focusing on hunting down the target in front. But as they come up through toe corner, well, if the UKSimRacing Mostro can nail it here, he may find himself being able to get a little bit closer to the back of the McLaren that spits the flames as they make the way out of turn number 7 in towards 8. It is going to be very close because that McLaren very fast, albeit very sensitive to rotation, much like the Audi, but the difference is the McLaren just able to charge out those corners when it's all hooked up, and Rosev absolutely demonstrating it as he makes his way through turn number 9 and we jump on board. Now as he comes out to left-hand in towards turns 10 and 11, this race will feel like a test of stamina for our drivers as well. Not quite like the Nürburgring in round number 4, but for a sprint, this will perhaps be one of the most grueling sprints on the calendar, given that this circuit pushes so much of a load onto the car, lap after lap and corner after corner, and you feel that in the simulator with the force feedback going through your hands and having to control it with your arms. But as Rosev powers his way down towards Hay, in towards turn number 1 once again, you can see here how the BMW just able to accelerate away enough to feel safe initially, but this is where, with the run out of turn number 1 and also the toe now running to the best part of what is a mile all the way up towards the bus stop chicane, Rosev gets closer. Now less than 2 tenths, building speed ever more, heading up into top gear. Now will he be made to look to the left or will he look to the right? Well, Hay puts the car in the middle of the road off centre, and as they head in towards the bus stop chicane, Rosev's going to look to the outside. He can't quite find it, but meanwhile Hay almost overcooks it under braking. Both of them there keeping it together as they make the way in towards turn number 5, and down they go. Peter Cox meanwhile on the outside. In fact, he's on the inside as he's gone for the move with Rosev having to give the space, and Peter Cox makes the move with Rosev out of sorts there as they clear turn number 5, and now gaining P3. Rosev falls backwards and away from Breivik, the next driver behind, who will look to try and take him on, but it's Racing Lab and Privateer versus official team driver, given the fact how they've been entered for this season. And meanwhile Rob Armstrong was trying to get into the mix in the UKSimRacing Hunt driver. He wants to go racing, but Darren Sharples has got an itch that he needs to scratch, and the Audi Knight trying to come on strong, but it's V10 versus V8, and that Audi just does not have the speed versus the Mercedes. You can see they've got the better round out of the corner, full slipstream as well, and now Sharples is being made to look round the outside, but can he get it to the inside of turn number 9? I think he hasn't got enough of a run up the hill, and he just has not carried the speed. But as they make the way on around, meanwhile we look to James Conley, and we say hello there to Pound Shop Adam Jones, and says James Conley, let's go. And we can see that Conley right now holding on to P2 in the AM class. Oh goodness me, it's a knock to the wall, and that's James Rankin who loses it. And meanwhile, as he rejoins the race line, Casper Ron has to take evasive action, and the CHR Motorsport machine there takes a battering to the wall, albeit not as bad as what it could be, but I think he's got damage. He's made his way into the pit lane. It's suspension damage, and for Rankin, that could be an emergency pit stop, and I think he's been too soon to make that his one stop of the day, unless he's going to do a huge amount of fuel saving right now. We are expecting our drivers to pit around the region of what will be approximately somewhere in the region of 12 to 15 laps into this race, and to put you in perspective, we're only at 5 laps in, going on to lap number 6. But meanwhile, looking for Rankin with that damage to Marvin Cruz, who right now has got Richard Jones over the back of him, the privateer in the AM class from Germany. Well, he's got the pressure of Jones as they make the way onto the first straight. Jones is going to think about this. I think Cruz will just hold his line. He doesn't want to fight this too much. He just wants Jones gone so he can focus on battling the AM class. Remember, they don't score overall points in this championship. They only score class points, and Cruz lets Jones go, and Jones taking the place overall for its P20. But as they head in through turn at number 5 and down towards 6, meanwhile we look from them to Rob Armstrong versus what is there, I do believe, Ivan Breivik, and Armstrong trying to go around the outside. He gets very nip and tuck, a little bit of a scrape between the two of them door to door as they make the way into the corner, and as they make the way down towards what is turn at number 8. This is not over yet, I can tell you that. Armstrong's got the bit between his team. In fact, it is Breivik who's on the mission to pass. Armstrong's trying to defend, and Breivik goes deep. Armstrong keeps it nice and tight. They give one another plenty of room, but Armstrong's now trying to do the impossible, which is to go around the outside at turn number 9. And the reason we say that's impossible, let's explain it. The way the road goes, the fact if you're on that inside line, you naturally are moved further and further out of the corner apex. You understeer towards the wall, given the change of road surface and the way the bump in the road affects the car. And unless the driver on your outside is fully alongside, you have the right to the racing line there, and the driver on the outside will naturally, given the circumference of the corner, have to back off and settle in behind. And that's exactly what we saw from Armstrong there as they make the way in towards turn number 1 once again. But as they come on down, there's been a lot happening over the opening few laps of this race, and we have an opportunity to take a look back at what happened to some of our drivers, including the incident for John Doble on the opening lap, which we have coming up on replay now. This was on on the open lap through the S's, and as he made his way up through turn number 3, rear of the car lets go there on cold tyres, and the Porsche so sensitive on that rear end, and Verdobel will threading the needle in terms of getting it wrong, and the TC Simsport Kimi driver only taking himself out of proceedings in the end, and I think he'll be thankful for that, and I think indeed many a driver and team principal in the other machines will be grateful for that as well. But an unfortunate start to the race for John Doble. He's had to go to the pits, and as we understand it, that knock to the wall has been irreparable, and therefore he's had to take an early retirement. We return to your live pictures for a brief moment, ladies and gents. We have had some further instance for drivers, but right now we continue to follow the race in action here, and what we can see, this is the battle for P5 in the pro class between Ivan Breivik, who leads, followed by Rob Armstrong, and then it's Darren Sharples, and then we have Daniel Pace latching himself on as your leader in the AM class, and he's watching this with a popcorn seat view, as we like to refer to it, as they make their way down towards turn number 8, but no exchange at the moment. They all stay as they were, but as they head out to turn number 8 and up towards turn number 9, we take a look back at what happened to Matt Strand on the opening lap. And this was for the Racing Lab AM driving. This was the incident, we do believe, between him and Jones. We get a follow-up replay of that, and you see just that little bit of a wobble there on the inside under braking from Strand as he tried to turn into 6, and for Strand that was a difficult start to proceedings for him, and well, in the end Jones carrying on, but I believe Strand having to come in for repair work to the car. But as we then move back to live pictures once again, we do look from Rob Armstrong up towards second place pro driver here, Brandon Hay, who goes very deep into 90 right. These are your live pictures. They make the way up through the S's, and Hay have been punished for this in the fact that Cox is right there behind, but Cox has got too close too soon, and as they come through turn number 3 into 4, well, Brandon Hay now defending really hard, and well, to be fair, he's got the right to, and he can probably try and force Cox and Rosev to battle one another, and that's exactly what's happened with Pete Cox being so compromised offline as they make the way towards the bus stop chicane. Eric Rosev's going to get one place for free. Now, can he get another as they make the way out of the chicane? Well, no, he can't, but Pete Cox tries to come back immediately, but Rosev there breaks early, trying to keep a tight line through turn number 5. He doesn't want Cox to try and spring it up the inside, much like what we saw earlier on between these two, and as they come down to the chute corner at turn number 6, we can see that Cox looks the inside, but he can't quite pick it off, and therefore they stay as they are now. It is still Hay in P2 in the pro class, but Rosev moves to P3 and Cox drops to P4, albeit for how long before we see them all battle one another once again. But Hay having a difficult time out the corner, and Brandon Hay is struggling. Now, as they make their way down the back straight, you can see Rosa switching to the outside, and Hay having to defend hard. It's almost as if he's got now parked the car in the corner apexes as they go as late as possible into the braking zone. Cox on the inside versus Rosa side by side, so Cox trying to come back. This puts him on the outside into 9. Rosa is not cleared, but in the end he decides to back out of it here, and the problem is that Brandon Hay seems to be really struggling at this point in the race. He just does not have the exit speed out of a number of these low speed corners compared to earlier on, and that is starting to cause a little bit of a traffic jam between the drivers as they head on around and in towards the next lap. But the problem is going to be for Hay in particular, if this carries on, at some point Pete Cox will be able to react to it at 90 right, and he'll be able to set up a long run in towards bus stop chicane, and Rosev has fallen back to what is now 5 tenths away. I think Rosev trying to save some fuel here and see what happens, but if he's that far back, then he can't capitalise when it does go on, and we can see here Hay having a slow run out of 1 once again. Cox is right there in the tow, and as they make their way through the S's this time, Cox takes a little look to the inside of 4, can't quite find it, so switches back to the outside. Hay covers him off the inside of 4 now as they make their way towards the bus stop chicane, and Hay will have the inside initially, but you see Cox now looking around the outside, contact between the two of them, elbows out between them. Cox switches back, Hay parks on apex, and as they make the way through the chicane, Pete Cox here really now having to try and pick apart the puzzle as he looks to decipher a way through, but as they come down through turn at number 5. Meanwhile, we jump on board with Eric Rosev, who continues to watch this battle, being the third party, and as he can come down through turn number 6, can he potentially make a cutback run and get the move done on both of them, if not Pete Cox himself? But as they make the way up towards turn number 7, into the toe they go. You see Rosa there just trying to go for a slightly deeper run through the corner, but wary of the fact that dirty air of the cars in front is upsetting the aero balance of the McLaren, and that may just be holding him back here from getting involved fully, as Ivan Breivik is now only 8 tenths behind this battle and is closing relatively fast. They are taking time out of one another, but it is right now Brandon Hay who seems to be really trying to put the proverbial cork in the bottle. Meanwhile, Pete Cox is trying to let the pace flow. As they come out to turn number 9, we look from them to what is Thomas Barshut, who's been involved in it. So he's gone off circuit at what is turn number 7 on the exit there. And meanwhile, Matt Maddox and Marvin Cruz have come through. In fact, Maddox has made his way through to P6 in the AM class. So the privateer having a difficult moment as he comes out to the right-hander and up towards turn number 9. He charges, but as he heads on through and over the rise. Meanwhile, we look from them back to your elite class. whilst there's plenty of battling going on in the Pro Class. Let's not forget we do have also our Elite and AM classes, and right now the Empire Motorsport B driver Nathan Foster under pressure from Darren Norquette with Thomas Aspal behind your pro leader, and well, he's now got very close to the back of this, and I think he wants through, given the fact his pace is now starting to be stifled. But as they head in towards the bus stop, it's going to be Norquette on the inside, Foster on the outside. Foster turns in, and Norquette can't find a way fully alongside then, decides to let it go for now. But as they come down through turn number 5 here, Foster has the momentum as they roll off of the corner and in towards the chute. But the problem is, I think it's more on the straights. So that run out 90 right at turn number 1, Foster just does not have the pace to try and keep the space as they head in towards the latter half of this lap. However, it seems though Foster a little bit more comfortable. And I wonder whether that Porsche is running a little bit more wing on it compared to some of its peers, and therefore he may be struggling with top end speed. As they head out towards turn number 7 and down towards 8 now, Foster still at 3 attempts clear and holding just about. He's got the distance over Ryan Davies, and Davies is trying to stay clear of this battle. He doesn't want to be involved, 1.8 seconds away, so Foster will be losing any benefit he gets from that distant toe gradually. But meanwhile, we look back to Rosev versus Peter Cox. They make the way out through turn number 8, and with Rosev here still battling for P3 or P2 really in the Pro Class with Hay and Cox still in this horrible place in the middle. But look at the traffic jam it's building here. We've now got Ivan Brevitt and Rob Armstrong on the back of it, and also Darren Sharples is there. And we have got practically a good chunk of what is the top 10 on the Pro Class, separated by only 2.5 seconds from nose to tail from P2 to P7 in class. And as they all roar their way past the barrier there, well, right now Brandon Hay is building quite the traffic jam, and I don't think he knows what to do with it other than defend, and credit to him for the fact he is keeping there at bay as long as possible. But at some point someone's going to find a way to make a chink in his armour exposed, and at that point will the places just flow, or will it be just one driver who gets on through? Well, only time's going to tell here at Watkins Glen. And as we head towards the end of the 18th minute of racing, we've still got plenty more to go, another 27 on the clock. With Brandon Hayes able to keep this up and make it well for the strategy, this will be his best performance of the season unquestionably today, as they make the way through the bus stop chicane again, and just nobody able to get close enough. As we jump on board here with Pete Cox and UKSimRacing Moss, the problem he's got is the fact he gets so close each and every time, but he's getting close in the wrong places. He needs to set himself up to go for the move and get close on the straight, and he's just not able to time that at the moment. But as he goes a bit deep there, so runs to the grass. Now Rose is going to look up the outside here, and Cox covers him off, but again making that move, and he's had to make a late ditch the inside in order to try and get this covered off. Now Rose ends up being pushed backwards towards Breivik. Breivik's not going to fight with his fellow racing lab and driver. They're going to try to work together, but look at Rob Armstrong here. He's trying to get involved as well in the Mercedes behind. He takes a look but can't quite fathom it on the brakes, and as they come through what is their turn number 8 all together now, and as they head up the hill towards 9, line astern they go. But meanwhile Marvin Cruz had an off track as we look to the Amdro. He's dropped down to P7 in the run out turn 6 into 7, and the privateer right now lose that to Matt Maddox and Thomas Barjuk. But meanwhile Thomas Aspal has come into the pit lane from the lead of the Pro Class, the first pit stop on the cards. It's an earlier stop than we imagine. It's only 11 laps in, and I do wonder whether he feels as though he is being held up by this battle that's ongoing between Nathan Foster and Darren Norquette, with Reece Saunders being released into this fight. As we're hearing that Darren Sharples, well, in fact we fought on the timing tank, he was coming in, he's not coming to the pits, he stayed out of the circuit, and that's just a little glitch in our electronics. But as we do continue to watch this battle for P4 over on the elite class boil its way down the straight at Cantor, well, Norquette's close, but he's not close enough to try and make the move count as they head on through the chicane and in towards turn at number 5. But from them we do look to pull Robson, and will the CHR Motorsport driver in P18 overall, P8 in the Pro Class. He's trying to make overall position versus Steinar Sani, and Sani P4 in the AM class here. Robson looking around the outside, Sani covers him off. Sani does not want to lose any more time. We can see Richard Jones for Honus Racing, the privateer, closing up behind as our drivers come roaring on down through turn number 5 once more. But as they do, we look from them to James Connolly, and Connolly here under pressure from Simon Andre Livingston, who looks up the inside. It's the battle of the two Ferraris, and the two Italian stallion machines power their way out of turn number 6 and up towards 7. Will Livingston flashing its lights there, I think more to distract than to complain. But right now the number 46 Ferrari definitely feeling the pressure in this battle for the runner-up spot in the AM class, with Daniel Pace 7.7 seconds up the road and gradually pulling off into the distance. And the more these two fight, the more they're going to give the opportunity for Daniel Pace to level up the playing field versus Mark Johnson going into the season finale. But Connolly at the same time will want this second place to put him firmly in control of the battle for P3 in the AM Championship going into to Daytona. But as they come out of the right-hand return number 9 and up towards 10, well, Livingston there, but not quite able to look for the move as we jump on board with the Norwegian as he comes through turn number 10. And he gets the better run there through the corner. What's interesting is when these medium speed corners, we're starting to see, I think some drivers experiencing the effects of that tyre degradation, whereas others are not, when they perhaps protected the tyres on him. As Pace is into the pit lane, he's coming from the lead of the AMP class as I look at my Conte proof window, so he's decided to call it early. And as we continue to watch this battle here, this is now affecting the battle for the lead of the AMP class as Conley falls off the exit curve there at 90 right, and that will be an instant point picked up. As he makes way through the ST, won't mind that too much. He'll be focused more on keeping the other Ferrari behind him as they power their way onwards towards the bus stop chicane. 2 attempts at closing, but notice how the Ferrari here is in top gear. It builds speed gradually, it's got plenty of top end speed, but it doesn't accelerate there quickly enough, and Livingston just has to watch on frustratingly from behind as they cruise over the curves and in towards turn number 5. Now coming on down through the right-hander, well, Livingston here again a little bit more controlled on the throttle input, going out to 5 in towards 6, just able to find that little bit of time, that extra miles per hour or 2. But coming down through at the left-hander, shoot gets a better run here, and Conley sees it's coming, he puts it on the inside, pins the car comfortably. Now Livingston will look for the cutback, he'll intentionally go overly deep, Conley will defend, but as Livingston then cuts back onto the apex curve, takes a lot of apex curve, that's unsettled the car, and you can see there he's got close, he's got the toe. Conley knows it's coming, however, and with Livingston making a small error, it means now that Conley can just defend this. He can put it right in the middle of the road. He can be obnoxiously defensive as they make the way out, and the gap now opens up to 5 tenths as they head up the hill and in towards turn number 9. But as they come through the left-hander, meanwhile we look from them to the pit lane, and Darren Norcat and Reece Saunders both in together here. I think this is a reaction for Darren Norcat and Reece Saunders versus what we've seen from other drivers further down the order. They've decided the time's right, and into the pits comes Brandon Hay as well, so he will release the battle for P2 effective in the pro class, albeit we've had that early pit stop from the race leader in the pro class of Aspau, and I do wonder whether that is a mistimed pit stop, given the fact we expect our drivers to go a little bit deeper into this race before making their stops. But now, with all this playing now, it does mean that Peter Cox is at the head of what is a 5-car train for the lead of the pro class on track at least, with Eric Rosev right behind, and now we will see whether Peter Cox has got race leading pace or whether Rosev is able to stay with him. If he's able to stay, then this battle could cost them all time, and Brendan Hay may be able to jump them all through strategy. We're at the halfway point of the race. We've still got just under another, with 22.5 minutes to go here at Watkins Glen International, and I can tell you one thing, this circuit located near the village of Dix is roaring with the sound of GT3s, with over 10,000 horsepower charging around right now, and it is showing no signs of stopping any time as they continue on through. But meanwhile, as we look from the battle for the lead of the pro class to further down the order, we had an incident there for Darren Norcat, and well, that's not the way to do the bus stop chicane, and I do wonder what's happened to Norcat with regards to making that mistake, and potentially we can get a replay to find out what exactly has happened. And in fact, we have a replay coming up right on cue, and here it is. Well, as they made the way on through, and I believe Norcat again unsettled through the first part of the chicane and can't take to the runoff area there and cruising on the grass in order to bring it back together. So the Racing Forces driver just coming unstuck, albeit it could have been far worse, but it was only 2 places lost, and he's brought the car back together. But we return to your live pictures here, and everybody's into the pits in the pro class, and well, it is a battle under the brakes of the pit limiter line. Good time to come back to, as we've seen all 5 of the top drivers in the pro class coming in. Now Armstrong, I think, will feel as though he was ahead. It's going to be a battle of the pit stops, but meanwhile, with all this playing out, where is Aspau? Firstly is the big question. Well, here he comes through what is their turn number 10. He finds himself sandwiched between Saunders and Norcat, but I think he'll feel as though he's safe as he comes on through, and as he heads towards turn number 1, more it's then going to be Brandon Hay, who is a further 16 seconds back. As we can see that Aspau just letting Norcat go and appreciating the flashing lights as they make their way down towards turn number 1. Rosev is the first to leave the pit, and you can see there it's going to be Cox alongside him. Now, can we get a view from above potentially? Well, sort of. There's Brandon Hay. This is going to be a freeway battle onto the straight, and as they make the way out, well, it's going to be Cox ahead, Rosev ahead of Hay, and then it's going to be Ivan Breivik behind by 1.2 seconds. So Brandon Hay has lost out places by pitting early, but I think in the end it may just be simply because the Cox and Rosev had a bit more pace on their final couple of laps before they pitted, and Brandon Hay has been battling against the current. But meanwhile, further behind, Darren Sharples has jumped ahead of Rob Armstrong. And Rob Armstrong is the biggest loser in all of this. He's lost out effectively 2 places, and he's gone from P5 in Pro to P7, and now he's got to try and make the recovery in this final stint of the race, and not plenty more as they make their way down through turn number 5, and in towards 6 they go. And the intricacies of this battle in the Pro class, it's fascinating the fact we essentially have 6 drivers fighting for 2 spots on the podium, and every one of them right now is all fueled up to go racing to the very end. They're all on very similar pace, but the question is Brandon A going to fall back further on his pace compared to Cox and Rosev? And if so, does he begin to stifle Breivik, Sharples and Armstrong? And could we see the 4 of them coming together later? Well, we'll have to wait and find out. But meanwhile, we look to your race leader of Håkon Grebstad, who over the last couple of laps, well, particularly on that last lap, was a second slower compared to Martin Tilling, and Tilling is pushing on hard as the Ignium Motorsport race leader, elite and overall, continues on through. But I wonder, given his relative pace and the fact he is the only driver who's delivered a 42 in terms of his fastest lap so far, and that is the fastest lap of the race, a 42.93 compared to his peers. We has had a pit stop, and Tilling has gained in the pits. These pit stops have happened off camera quite recently, but Grebstad still at 7 tenths ahead, but Tilling now chasing him down, and we could have a battle for the overall lead on our hands here. Albeit I think Tilling's going to have to absolutely milk the life out of that engine of that Porsche if he wants to try and get this done, because Grebstad, when he's up against the wall and cornered, he bites back, and he bites back for victory. There's no question about that. But as they roll through, unfortunately, we're not going to be hearing from the pit wall at UKSimRacing today. Greg is not available. Greg's in high, the team principal. But as we look to the UKSimRacing corporate machine of Tilling as he rolls his way through turn number 6 right now, well, I can tell you this is going to be a battle that will run the distance. But meanwhile, we look from them back to Darren Sharples versus Rob Armstrong. As we briefly do lose Sharples there, he materialises back from the ether of internet connectivity, and the 777 driver, hopefully that's not going to be a sign of something to come in terms of potential disconnect, which would be the equivalent of an engine blowout in real-world motorsport, or an alternative mechanical failure of the car. Well, Ivan Breivik still half a second clear as Sharples, and Armstrong a further half a second back in return, but these 3 all on very similar pace. 3 different machines as well, 3 different manufacturers, fantastic to say, and they are reveling in this battle for P5 in the Pro. But as they head down the back straight, meanwhile we look from them to Reece Saunders versus Darren Orkett, the 2 German machines of what is there, the Team Year 1 Privateer Mercedes versus the Racing Forces BMW. They are nose to tail with Thomas Aspau, your pro leader, just behind them, and the Ferrari following on through. But I think for our pro leader, he will not mind this, given the fact he has got an 8.5 second gap to Peter Cox in P2, and relative pace-wise, Aspau is currently outpacing Cox, Rosev and Hay quite considerably. As they head down through turn at number 1 and onwards towards another lap. More still, the battling rages on here at Watkins Glen International Circuit, and well, I've been made to mark my words immediately, because I just said that Thomas Aspau was lapping faster compared to his pro peers, and then Peter Cox comes along and says, well, I'm going to prove you wrong by doing a 43.58 and set the fastest lap in the class, and that is the fastest lap in class by almost 2 tenths versus Aspau's previous 43.71. So the UKSimRacing Mostrine now making headway, and I wonder whether, given the fact he was made to wait so long behind Brandon Hay on that opening stint, he's got a bit of extra fuel in the car, and he was able to save some fuel in running behind in that battle for P2, and now his target will be to try and close up to leader come the end. Keep in mind, of course, that right now for Cox, he is the championship leader in the pro class, and his P2 will take him further in his aspirations to become pro champion this season, and Sharples is his main rival in P6, so therefore Peter Cox is gaining if things are finishing as they currently stand, but we'll have to wait and see. Time will tell, and I can tell you one thing, the Briton will not want to make the mistake that he made at Okayama last week, as that was an open goal for a win, or at least a podium, and well, he missed it in the end. But as he makes his way on down towards turn number 8, meanwhile, we look to the battle for P3 in the AM class. This is between Stein Arsani and James Conley. James Conley lost P2 to Simon Andre Livingston through pit strategy, as we're to understand it. But right now, these 2 fighting on as they make the way on through turn number 7 and up towards 8 they go. And well, Conley, we jump on board and look back from the rear of the privateer Ferrari, and well, let's listen into the roar of the engine. Way out to turn at number 8 and up towards 9. You can see there Stanley trying to use all the road whip to his advantage, but not able to get close enough. Albeit Conley going a bit deep there on the exit 9. Meanwhile, Stanley having a much better run and gaining almost 4 attempts down 1 corner alone. And it goes to show you, it really is momentum-based racing at this Watkins Glen circuit. with the fact that when Conley is not able to hit his apexes and Sunny is, the gap completely inverts as they make their way out to the final corner and down towards turn 1 once again. Meanwhile, we've got drama further up the road, and right now I believe we have had an off track for what is our leader in the Pro class. In fact, they've been returned to the pit, and it starts Aspal who's in the pit lane. But what exactly happened, here's the question. We will try and find out very shortly, and we have had some other changes on the field, but we continue to watch this battle for the final spot on the AM podium. And James Conley here trying to hold on as we've got a bit of bumper there in the road, and that looks to be the bumper of the Team Year 1 car, so that may explain what's happened, but we'll come back and understand shortly. Meanwhile, let's not diagnose an incident, let's instead take the prognosis of a battle here, and I reckon that Conley right now feeling very comfortable in defending through the bus stop chicane, but Stein Arsani continue to poke, continue to prod here. He's got time, given the fact that to Matt Maddox it is a further, 7 seconds. Maddox in P5, so therefore these AM drivers right now have plenty of time to try and sort this out. Sani's got time on his side, albeit Simon Andre Livingston being the best part of what is 6 seconds up the road, so therefore I think it's going to be a push for P3 for what is Sani, and that will be the story. But as they make the way out of turn number 7, well, still we have Sani trying to come on up once again as the BMW M4 driver now with 3 attempts coming down towards Hill Corner, but a bit too far back to try and capitalise here. Instead just backs off and lets the car roll in. Potentially doing a little bit of fuel saving here to give himself a little bit more engine usage on the final laps of this race. Sometimes they will intentionally underfuel, expected to be caught up behind drivers on the second stint. As Sani powers his way out of turn number 10 behind Conley, out of turn number 9 in towards 10 behind Conley. You can see that again, Conley just not able to hook up 9 comfortably, and the BMW by comparison absolutely flying through the corner as James Rankins into the pit for his scheduled stop after making 1 pit stop already for repair work to the car. But as we see this battle for P3 in the AM class make its way onto another lap, and things seem to have stagnated for a brief moment. Meanwhile, we have a replay of what happened to pro leader Aspal only moments ago. We just seen him drop out of the lead of the class. Well, there's the aftermath of it, and are coming together with, what is that, Reece Saunders. Well, that explains why we saw a bit of the Team Year 1 bumper on the road, but we'll have to cut away from this, ladies and gentlemen, and we will get you a proper replay of the exact incident very shortly. But meanwhile, we look back here to that battle for P3 in the AM class. It continues to barrel its way in towards the bus stop chicane, and Sonny makes a mistake there and catches the car just in time. I think he felt it as soon as he dropped off of the entry curve into the chicane, given the fact the car was pointed in the wrong direction in terms of relative to the race line, and James Conley continuing to frustrate the Racing Lab M1 driver at the moment. If the privateer can carry this up, this will be his best performance of the season so far in terms of just the defensive driving from start to finish in this race. But Sonny will try and throw even more potential overtaking tricks in the proverbial book of racing at his rival as they make the way out of turn number 7 now. Gets a very good run there, almost heading to the grass. In fact, Sonny using all the road width and then some. And as they head down towards Hill, 2.5 tenths is the gap. He's closer, but just not able to find a way to get close enough as they make the way up the hill towards 9. And we jump on board here with the Norwegian. And this is the corner where he's so strong. Goes for a very late apex and barrels over the apex. He's got that car set up to run on those curves. Taking a bit too much curve potentially. There's Reece Saunders into the pit lane as I look at my Conte move window for repair work to the car. They've got a new front bumper ready to be put on that Mercedes. And as we do continue to ride on board here with Sonny, well, he gets a better run out of the final corner, and this is going to be it as they make their way down towards turn 1. And Conley can't respond to this. He's going to hang it around the outside. Sonny using the full RPM there of the 6-cylinder engine of the BMW. Side by side on the brake, and they go into 90 right. A little bit of a door up between the two of them as they come on through almost. And as they head up towards the S's now, where it's going to be Sonny ahead. But Conley, of course, will have the overspeed if he tucks into the toe, powering up the hill all the way towards turn number 5. But of course, with the bus stop chicane along the way, and Conley now coming back at him, he will get the overspeed in the Ferrari. But has he got enough time in 6th gear? Well, Sonny defends in the middle of the road here, forcing Conley to look round the outside, side by side on the brake, and they go. Conley turns in, but he falls behind, and Sonny there holds the lead line. As they head in towards turn number 5, can Conley try and sneak his way onto the inside through the right-hander? Well, Sonny gives him the space there, but I think carrying a bit too much speed in the end. The Racing Lab M1 driver able to make it count. Meanwhile, Conley again takes a quick look to the inside, not close enough. Paul Robson's now caught up, P9 in the Pro class. He'll try and get involved in this, but Steiner Sonny has made the play stick. He's up to P3 in the AM class, despite the valiant efforts of James Conley to keep him at bay. And as our drivers make the way on around towards the end of this lap, Meanwhile, Paul Robson now trying to get into the mix here, and well, I think Conley will feel as though Robson's going to take a look to the inside. He doesn't defend this, does Conley, and Robson will be given the space to play with the CHR Motorsport, but Conley is still going to run his line. He's not going to back out here. If Robson's going to get this done, Conley's sending a clear message, which is, I'm not just going to lift off for you, you're going to have to make this count. And as they make their way through turn number 9, will the CHR Motorsport driver now fully alongside into 10. No, in fact, not having to back out again, just not able to make it count, flashing his lights there. And I think Conley in return will just simply be shrugging his shoulders and going, well, it's on you to make the move, as they make their way through turn number 11 and down towards 1. And as they exit the corner here side by side, this is where I think Robson will make it count under braking, albeit he's going to go quite late on the brakes. The BMW, one of the weaker machines in the GT3 class on the brakes, given the current balance of performance, clears the corner. Conley cuts back here. Great racing between them, but Robson using all the runoff area there and will get this done, albeit having to use a bit more track width than perhaps he anticipated. But with their battle now subsiding, or is it, as Conley coming back and following the tow? Well, I think Conley here saying, well, you're ahead now, I'm going to use all this speed to try and come back at you at least, carry momentum, but Conley pulls to the outside, and well, I think Robson will be given the space to run the race line. Yes, he is indeed, and Conley there just settling down now in what is P17 overall, but still P4 in AM class. But from them, we take a look back to what happened between Thomas Aspel and Reece Saunders only a moment ago, and here's the replay. As they made their way out of turn number 1, so Saunders having a slower run out of the corner, given his battling with Darryl Norquette, side by side through 2 and into 3, and it's a tap by Luxins on the rear of the car from Saunders to Aspel, based on that camera angle we've seen, and the two of them in the end being sent together to the walls of the S's. And well, very unfortunate for Aspel, that is an absolute heartbreaker for Racing Lab, and for the simple reason leading by quite a margin and being denied another win. And well, that is a story for Racing Lab and the season. A number of opportunities they've had to win races, and in the end it's all gone wrong, whether it's through a mistake of their own or an incident they've been embroiled in. But another win that has been lost for the team. But as we do look to James Conley on the live pictures once again, what we can see here now with Reece Saunders close up behind him and Matt Maddox 3.5 seconds away, which Maddox will be looking at this and thinking that he's got an opportunity to now make it P4 in the AM class with only 7 minutes plus the final lap still on the clock. But as our drivers charge on down and towards turn number 1, and once again, well, Peter Cox finds himself leading the pro class now, and we'll look to them very shortly. But I think he'll find himself in a bit of a strange situation, given they may not have been expecting that earlier on. But we have also had Darren Sharples fall down the order quite considerably, and in fact we have a replay coming up as to what happened to the Audi driver in the pro class, and here it is. So running at the time in what was P5 in Pro, P10 overall, heads into the bus stop chicane. Car bounces over the curb and takes way too much apex curve, and the car sent to the wall, and goodness me, that is a nasty knock to the front end of the Audi R8. And for the 777 driver, well, thankfully turned around in the right direction, but with a crumpled front end like that, well, he's had to come into the pit lane. Thankfully he was able to get it home and not lose a lap of racing. That's put him all the way down in P20 overall, P9 in class. It's so easy to make a mistake there in the bus stop chicane if you just take too much apex curve, and the car's not set up to take the curb, given the fact that it very quickly rises away from the road surface. So the lower your ride height, the more of an effect it will have, and in the end the Audi just being bounced around and going into the barrier. Back to your live pictures here, ladies and gentlemen, and with what is 6 minutes left, we look from P5 in the AM class in Matt Maddox to your race leader in the pro class of Pete Cox of UKSimRacing Moss. 1.8 seconds the gap between him and this man, Eric Rosev, and the privateer right now continue to try and chase after that opportunity to make it a win in the pro class here today. But Pete Cox matched him in terms of pace, and over the last couple of laps, these two have been absolutely nailing it to the cross with one another with regards to the equilibrium in those lap times, and we'll give you a demonstration of what those lap times look like very shortly. In fact, here they are in the bottom of your screen when that is on the last 5 laps, and you can see there is nothing between them. On lap 18 it was a grand total of what was 700ths gain for Rosev, and then a further 200ths, and then it was 6.5 attempts lost. I think a mistake potentially for Rosev, but then started to make a bit more, in fact making it a bit less ground, and Cox has opened up the gap, but Rosev now started to get back into a rhythm. But as we do look back to the battle box on the bottom of your screen, it goes to show you the two of them exchanging lap times as if it's going out of style. and as they make their way down towards turn number 8, well, could we see Rosev close up? Brendan Hayne, meanwhile, still back in P3. He's 2.5 seconds clear of this man, Håkon Grebstad, but Breivik from Racing Lab is closing and closing gradually. That gap is trickling down at a gradual rate of knots, and to be fair to Breivik, he has really pushed hard here to try and make it a third place in the pro class, and if he is able to find it, his efforts will be definitely rewarded and then some. But to give you an idea of that gap between the two of them, which has occurred over the last couple of laps, well, this goes to show you it. Between that Breivik and Hay, it was a little bit larger at first, back on lap number, what was 21, but it has come down quite considerably over the last couple of laps as they make their way up towards another one now, and Håkon Breivik continue to charge on as they head through the right-hander of 90 right or turn number 1 at once more. But as we clear the lap times there, instead focus now on the battles at hand. Most of the battles have subsided for a brief moment, as we do still have Aspal in the pit lane being prepared, and we do say hello to him in the YouTube chat there as he is just waiting for the car to be prepared to try and get it back out of the circuit for the conclusion, because you never know what can happen come the final couple of laps of the race. We look from them to Matt Maddox, who's caught up behind James Conley, and on that last lap, James Conley losing a whole second of Maddox. So this battle for what is P4 in the AM class well and truly on again, and I wonder if Conley is struggling with tyre degradation here in the right alternative. Is it fuel? It's going to be one of the two, because Conley's pace has headed on a downward spiral for the last few laps. And as they make the way on through the S's here, well, I would say it's tyre degradation, given the fact that Conley's able to push onto the first stretch, and if he was saving fuel, he would not be doing this. He'd in fact be letting this go. But Maddox having to look around the outside here. Conley covers him off and moves back to the race in line. Maddox bounces his way off through the bus stop chicane as they head on through. Maddox gets it wrong, takes a brief cut there, and he won't want to keep making that mistake, so he will get automated slowdowns as we jump aboard with the Porsche 911 driver. As they head down towards turn number 6, through the left hand they go, and will Conley able to keep Maddox at bay for the time being. But that gap 7.5 tenths as it levels out, and now for Maddox it's all about coming back as strong as possible, but going very aggressive there, the BDM racing driver into the apex of turn number 7, and by doing so actually cost himself some speed. You'll notice the amount of understeer the car picked up as he hit the apex curve, and therefore losing a bit more time to Conley, only hundreds, but still he doesn't want to lose, he wants to gain. As they make the way out of hill and up the hill towards turn number 9, well, now Conley is settling in, but this is where Conley does seem to be so much weaker compared to his counterpart. He's able to defend very well, there's no exception in that, but I can tell you that based on the run when he was battling with Steinar Sani and now with Maddox, it seems like these final couple of corners of the lap just are absolutely bruising to the Ferrari, and as Maddox comes out the corner, he gets far too close to corner X. He has to switch the inside prematurely, and this is not what he expects. Now it's going to be a drag race towards turn number 1. Ferrari on the left arm pitch, and Maddox we're on board with, and Conley goes as late as he can. The brakes on that Ferrari strong, the brakes on the Porsche very strong as well, tapped to the rear of Conley's car. Maddox having to fight with the steering as he bounces on the exit curve at turn number 1, and Maddox so close to reach out and touch the rear wing of Conley's Ferrari, but he's closing at the wrong points, and Conley here really having to try and put up the ultimate defensive wall versus the unstoppable force of Matt Maddox, and which one will prevail? Well, they've only got one more lap after this, as our race leader comes on through to take the penultimate lap, and indeed can go on to the final lap. White flag is out. They will get 26 laps of racing here today, and Matt Maddox right now still trying to pick his way into P4 as we continue to ride on board here. Conley goes overly deep, and as they make the way out to 5 and in towards 6, well, Conley will be on the inside, but that Porsche very strong on the brakes. Maddox has got the rotation and the grip on the outside. Conley's going to defend it on the inside as much as he can, but Maddox using all the road width there, outside to the inside of turn number 7. Beautiful brave pass there for Maddox, and to be fair to James Conley, he's put up a brilliant defence versus everybody's tried to come on through, but in the end I think for the Ferrari driver it's just a bridge too far as he makes his way down towards Hill Corner. But meanwhile, further up the road, P2 in Pro Class, Eric Rosev has just set the fastest lap in the Pro Classes race on a 43.57. He is now almost within a second of Peter Cox. It's 1.1 seconds right now as they make the way past turn number 4. And as they head on down this final lap, well, I think Eric Rosev is trying to make one last charge for victory in the class. But the privateer right now, I think Fiend as though he's going to do that. He's going to have to absolutely hustle. But the problem is, with the time he's got remaining here, I don't think it's going to be enough as they make their way out of 5 minute 6, and Peter Cox can't back off. But if he manages his pace long enough, he will feel safe as they roll the way down through turn number 6 and into 7. We can see that both drivers using all the road width, and we can understand why. But meanwhile, looking from them to Håkon Grebstad, currently 2.8 seconds clear of Martin Tilling. And as he heads into the final 2 corners here, where it has been a comfortably led race from the number 37 driver from Ignium Motorsport. He's led it from start to finish, and what he absolutely delivered at Road America, he delivered last time at Okayama, and it's a triple in the making for Håkon Grebstad as he comes to line your winner in round number 7 overall and in the elite class, ahead of Martin Tilling P2 there, runner-up for Tiki Simsport Corpa, and then it will be 10.5 seconds before Ryan Davies makes it a double podium for Tiki Simsport Kimi, elite and overall P3, ahead of Nathan Foster P4, and then Daryl Norquette comes through to take P5 overall, and in the elite we'll then have Peter Cox, who comes to the timing line. He's done it. He holds on to the win in the Pro Class. P6 overall ahead of Eric Rosev, who finishes P2 in class. And Brandon Hay will come on through to make it another podium, the privateer, ahead of Oyvind Breivik. Rob Armstrong completes the top 10, and with it P5 in the Pro Class there in the rear of your picture. And then it'll be Daniel Paes who comes out of the final corner to make it another AM win. I don't think he's going to believe it now that he'll be level with Mark Johnson going into the season finale. Kasper Brotner P12 ahead of Richard Jones, who makes his way across the timeline. And then it will be Stephen Andre Livingston, who comes home runner-up for Racing Lab AM in the AM class there. But the number 1 outfit ahead of Steinar Sani, his teammate, who finishes P3 there in the AM class. A brilliant drive from the pair. Reece Saunders P16 ahead of Paul Robson P17, and then it will be Matt Maddox, who just missed out on the AM podium, but still P4 in class ahead of James Conley, who completes the AM top 5, and then it will be Darren Sharples P20 behind him, and then we do have a further, 5 to 6 seconds to Thomas Barjak, who'll come across line P6 in AM class, P21 as he takes the checker flag for himself. And then it will be James Rankin, who very shortly makes his way out of the final corner, and there is James Rankin to complete his race with CHR Motorsport as he crosses the timeline. P10 in class, P22 overall the pro, Marvin Cruz P23, and those will be your final finishers on the lead lap. We did have the retirements of Thomas Aspau, Matt Strand and John Doe, so 3 retirees with 26 starters, 23 finishers all in the lead lap. But as our drivers gradually make the way on around, well, for Eric Rosev today, what looked to be going so strongly in practice, in qualifying, it didn't all come together, and he fought hard with Peter Cox throughout the race, but just was not able to find a way to get ahead of the UK Sim Racing driver. But still, for the privateer from Racing Lab AM, he won't be disheartened in the fact he's definitely bought a race-winning package in that McLaren MP4 12C2 each and every circuit, and he'll be looking for the win at Daytona to try and end on the ultimate high. But as he heads towards the pit lane, as do a good number of our drivers, we do look to Stephen Andre Livingston alongside Steinar Sani as the two of them roll the way up the hill through the S's, and will they're running in team formation, albeit I think also keeping an eye on the fuel in the car. And what a great day for Racing Lab M1 in the AM class. Not able to take the win, but a double podium P2, P3, and it'll give them huge points in the team's championship going into the finale. But that's the end of the racing today, ladies and gentlemen. And as we take a look to the scenic view, let's take a look for those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. We start off with the overall results, of course, and we'll be focusing in particular on our top 10, plus also any class podium finishers outside the top 10. And Håkon Grebstad, they're making it 3 wins out of 3 overall and in the elite class for Ignium Motorsport. Pushed all the way by Tiki Simsport Corpa's Martin Tilling, but the gap of 2.9 seconds in the end says it all in the fact that Grebstad was able to hold control of the race, and whilst Tilling was able to push him all the way, in the end just not able to find a way to break down the resilience, the consistency and the pace of the Norwegian. But still, for Martin Tilling, a P2 for Tiki Simsport Corpa, and he will not be complaining at that. Nor will Ryan Davis for Tiki Simsport Kimi, who completes the overall and elite podium there with a double podium for Tiki Simsport's teams. And it'll be Nathan Foster P4 for Empire Motorsport B, not quite able to hold on to Davies, 2 seconds the gap between them at the checkered flag. Peter Cox with P5 overall, your winner in the pro class, and that sets him out perfectly for the season finale, leading into the finale at Daytona. And now that advantage will grow. The UK UKSimRacing Boss driver, 1 second clear of Eric Rosev, with the privateer ahead of the fellow privateer of Brandon Hay for Newbridge Esports behind the Racing Lab and privateer. But for the pair of them there, Rosev having the pace and Brandon Hay having the defensive nuance in order to keep many a driver behind for as long as he needed to be on the podium. P7. Oyvind Breivik, P8 there for Racing Lab and batted his way into the full spot of the Pro class ahead of Rob Armstrong, who completed the Pro top 5 for UKSimRacing Hunt. And now a further 10 seconds behind your AM winner, Old Dudes in Cars, is Daniel Pays in a great drive there. And as we said earlier, puts him on parity with Mark Johnson going into the season finale. Casper Brotner, P11, best of the rest there for Old Dudes in Cars. And then focusing on the rest of our podium finishers in their classes, we've got 2 more to talk about. Simon Andre Livingston, your runner-up in the AM class, P13 for Racing Lab and 1. 5 seconds clear of his teammate, Steinar Sani, who rounded off the podium in the AM class of Pays, Livingston and Sani. But as we look further on down the finishing positions, ladies and gentlemen, we can see that out of our 26 starters, we did have a grand total of 3 retirees and 1 drive finish a lap down. Marvin Cruz there, P22, being your last lead lap finisher, with Darren Orkett, P23 for Racing Forces, a lap down. And then Thomas Aspal with that unfortunate incident between him and Rhys Saunders, seeing him come out of the lead of the Pro class and end up finishing P24 overall. He will be classified as a finisher as he did complete over half the race distance, but not what he expected at all. And that's P11 in the Pro class. And I can imagine the disappointment right now for the Racing Lab AM driver. Matt Strand with that early retirement after what was only 1 lap turned for Racing Lab AM, and John Doble with that incident going through the S's on the opening lap, seeing the Tiki SimSport Kimmy driver retiring before he was able to complete his first lap of racing here today. But now coming on to the class finishing positions, we start off with the elites. And we can see at the top, Håkon Grebstad taking the win in class for Ignia Motorsport by 2.9 seconds over the Tiki SimSport corporate driver Martin Tillin, and a further 10.5 seconds to Ryan Davies for Tiki SimSport Gimme. And then Nathan Foster, P4 there for Empire Motorsport B, ahead of Rhys Saunders, with Saunders having that repair work after the incident between himself and Aspal cost him dear in his battle for the top 5. Darren Norkett, P6 there, a lap down for Racing Forces. And as we come on to the Pro class, we can see your winner, Peter Cox, there by 1 second for UKSimRacing Boss over the privateer of Eric Rosev. Close between them and the 2 of them exchanging lap times, but Peter Cox, when he was in clear air, able to find a way to stay 1 step ahead. Brandon Hay round off the podium there in a brilliant drive for the privateer, a brilliant defensive drive, and then it was a further 4 seconds to Oyvind Breivik for Racing Lab AM, ahead of Rob Armstrong for UKSimRacing Hunt. Behind them, Casper Brotner, P6, not in a position to attack the top 5 today, but still at the same time, the Old Dudes in Cars drive bringing on home a consistent performance, with Richard Jones, P7, after that unfortunate incident on the opening lap, costing him dear. And then Paul Robson at P8 for CHR Motorsport, ahead of Darren Sharples, the privateer, and James Rankin finishing P10. And a little bit of trivia with that, it's the first time this season we have seen the 2 CHR Motorsport cars finish with places between them rather than together in the field. Thomas Aspal got P11 there with that unfortunate retirement, but still classified as a finisher, 8 laps in the end. And Matt Strand, the sole retiree in the Pro class of Racing Lab AM, P12. Then we come on to the AM class, last but not least. And we can see here, Daniel Pays, P1, your winner in class by 13 seconds for Old Dudes in Cars, ahead of Simon Andre Livingston, with a Racing Lab and 1 drive, bringing home a double podium ahead of his teammate Steinar Sani, who was 5 seconds behind. Matt Maddox, P4 for BDM Racing, 3 seconds ahead of James Conley, and Conley putting up a brilliant defensive masterclass all the way through, but in the end just not able to keep his foes at bay in the run to turn number 1. Thomas Barget, P6, a further 13 seconds behind, but ahead of Marvin Cruz by 11 seconds, and John Doble, your sole retiree in the AM class come the checkered flag after retiring on the open lap for Tiki SimSport Kimmy. But those are the race results, ladies and gentlemen. But we're not quite finished with today, of course, because you've seen the racing out of the circuit. But what do our drivers have to say about it in the state of New York? Well, we'll be back in approximately 10 to 12 minutes time for post-round interviews with our drivers. But before we do that, if you've been enjoying the broadcast today, firstly, we do encourage you once again to make sure you like today's broadcast and also subscribe to the UKSimRacing channel so you can stay up to date with all the latest broadcasts we put on a weekly basis. But also, if you've ever wondered how you can support UKSimRacing, did you know there is a quick way to do so via our affiliates? For at UKSimRacing, we are affiliated with multiple sim racing and real-world motorsport companies, including Swillow Meta Sim Racing Coaching and Race Anywhere. And if you do head to our website, that's uksimracing.co.uk today, website will appear on screen very shortly. You can see there's a link in the top right corner of the screen to our Discord. Now, why would you want to join our Discord is the big question. Well, firstly, if you ever want to be on the grid for one of our official series, you need to be part of our Discord. It is a mandatory racing requirement. But secondly, if you go to our Discord and join, some of our affiliates provide discount codes which are available only in our official Discord, and when you do use those codes, for you as the purchaser or the consumer, you get a discount on your purchase, which is a win for you. We at UKSimRacing get a kickback from your purchase, which is a win for us, but really it's not a win for us, it's a win for the community, because as we are a non-profit organisation, every bit of money that we make from what is our affiliate status is invested back into a future series run by UKSimRacing, including future renditions of the GT3 League, the Porsche Cup, and we've got plenty more planned for 2023. We go from strength to strength, and we'd love to see you support our vision in achieving our goals at UKSimRacing. So do remember, a little purchase can go a long way in supporting UKSimRacing, but right now, to rest my voice, a 10-12 minute break is going to go a long way as we get set for our post-round interviews. We'll be back then. Don't go anywhere, you won't want to miss them. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time for our post-round interviews with our selected drivers. And today, we've got 3 drivers who volunteered their time for interview. In fact, we may have a 4th who's just recently joined, but we'll have to double check and see. But we're going to kick off with our first interview very shortly, and that is the AM class driver, Simon Andre Livingston from Racing Lab AM1. We do owe him an interview. He missed out on one last week, and therefore we'll be hearing his perspective on what was a valiant battle to P2 in the AM class after starting P14 over on the grid and on pole, losing 1 place in class, but never a place overall. And then we'll be hearing the story of Peter Cox from UKSimRacing Moss in the pro class, finding himself being backed up behind Brandon Hay for the opening stint of the race, and then making the strategic call and jumping into P2, and then finding himself taking over the win with Aspalk having that incident with Reece Saunders towards the end of the race. And then lastly, we're hearing from the elite class driver and Martin Tinning from TQ Simsport Corpa, and his race in P2 all the way, and keeping Grebstad honest, but never able to get close enough to put the pressure ultimately on. But as we get our first interview underway, joining me now in the interview room is none other than Simon Andre Livingston. Well, in fact, he's not quite able to join me at the moment. We do have a slight technical gremlin to deal with, so we are going to see if he can join us via an alternative main. But we do sometimes have these little technical gremlins decide to rear their ugly head. But if we can't work around this, we will have to revert to a plan B, which is to use an alternative voice channel in the UKSimRacing Discord. So we do apologise for this slight delay, ladies and gentlemen. But we will get this resolved as soon as possible. But in the meantime, in terms of the racing today, definitely the ultimate sprint to end the racing on. And it has been one that I think really has brought to life the 45-minute race format. And, well, as he does join me now, welcome, Simon Andre. And what a race you've had today in the fact, whilst you started on pole, finishing P2 in the class in the end, it looked hard, it looked fast out there, but never losing an overall position along the way.
Yeah, that was a hard race, but it was so fun.
Oh, indeed. And breaking it down into its constituent parts, we saw a brilliant qualifying lap from yourself, putting the car on pole. How was qualifying for you?
I was just aiming for trying to be around my personal best in practice. And I was just doing my deltas, and it came out to be like within some hundreds of a second from my personal best. So I was quite happy, and then I was just like, yeah, just see where this goes. And then when I looked at the result after the qualification, I couldn't believe that it was P1 actually. So quite happy with that, I will say.
Well, indeed, an absolutely brilliant performance in qualifying, and then going into the races. Well, in fact, the race today, we saw a relatively good start from yourself, albeit it did look quite crowded, and then you actually found yourself being pushed a bit down the order.
Yeah, I started on maybe what you would say is the wrong side, the outside, and I felt I didn't do anything wrong in the start. I was just trying to be cautious, and going up the S's, I was just being super cautious, and I think I lost Daniel quite early. I saw him come up on the side of me, and then I think like a train followed him, so I was like where to go get in, so I didn't want to ruin my race the first lap, so I was just cautious. And I think I came out P3 after the first lap, behind Connerly, I think.
Well, indeed, and as we look back at the footage right now, finding yourself in the end between Matt Maddox and Connolly as you came towards the end of the opening lap. And as the race went on in that opening stint, it looked as though you were making some pretty quick progress, but also having to think about strategy on this one. The tyres taking quite a bit of a pounding.
Yeah, I was not struggling any with my tires behind Connolly there, and I was just trying to follow him as good as possible. And unfortunately, I will say, actually braked a little bit early on the first lap, and Matt didn't, as we can see now here. I think he didn't realize I was braking, so he had a little bit of contact. I think that ruined his race. My race went on, luckily for me, but after that I was just trying to find a way to just keep the pace, and I didn't want to fight the car in front so much, because I saw that we were losing to Daniel a lot, but then when it came to a point where I was trying to get past, I couldn't get past. We were fighting so hard, but quite fair, I will say. So it was great fun.
Well, it did look fun out there, and I have to ask, how did it feel in the Ferrari in terms of the relative performance compared to your peers? We've seen the Ferrari's normally been a bit of an all-rounder, but on extended straights, that 6th gear, it takes a lot of time to get the speed, but once it gets it, it roars.
Yeah, after like coming up the S's and down to the straight before the bus stop, it was quite easily to like gain some tenths of the car in front, and I could feel the pace advantage there, and felt also the last straight down to the first corner that we could gain a little bit in the draft, even though the cars now aren't really that drafty anymore, so you have to have a good exit. But I felt the Ferrari fitted the track really good, and I had a great setup, and I didn't have the best preparation. I moved 200 miles to a new place, so my rig was set up like 3 hours before the race, so everything is not configured right, but I still managed to pull off this amazing result, so I have to be happy about that.
Oh, 100%. That is quite the achievement, and well done on the move and the quick re-establishing of the sim rig. And just with regards to your strategy, given the fact that you'd lost places early on in the race, did you decide to change your strategy to try and accommodate that, or did you use the same strategy as what you had planned?
Yeah, I was planning to pit maybe a lap earlier, but since like I couldn't actually get past Connolly in front, I just figured out that I would do the opposite of him. So I was just crossing my fingers that he was either going a lap earlier or a lap later than me, and he went a lap earlier than me. So from then I just tried to push on with the pace, and I didn't change really anything compared to what I already planned out. I changed 2 tires, and I took the fuel. I took a little bit of a safety gap, so I think I had actually too much fuel this time. So, but relative to the preparations and everything going into this race, the result is, like I said before, is quite amazing. I'm super stoked about it.
Indeed, and you're right to feel that way with a podium going into the season finale. And well, just talking about the achievements of the wider team at Racing Lab AM1, yourself 2nd place today, and in 3rd, your teammate as well, just behind you, of Steinar Sani. You both must be absolutely proud of your achievements.
Yeah, I was like thinking in the middle of the race that Steinar was quite far behind, but I saw that he gained some positions, and suddenly I realized he was P3, and then we started to talking on the radio a little bit, and yeah, we were quite stoked. And the only thing we were quite sad about Thomas today as well. He has been super unlucky the last races actually, so that was the only thing that dampened the celebrations in our team today. But except for that, we were having a great fun after the race, doing donuts together and driving into the pits together, me and Steinar, having a real sim racing celebration, so can't complain about that.
Oh, 100%. A fantastic day for the team, particularly the Racing Lab AM1 sub-team in the AM class. But like you say, a bit clouded with Aspal losing out at the end in the pro class, but still one more round to go, and it could be an opportunity for you all to achieve that 1, 2, 3 you've all been looking for in the classes. It's Daytona that await in a week's time for our final feature race round of the season. How are you feeling for it?
It's a track that I haven't been driven so much on, but I have heard that it's quite top speed dependent, so with me driving the Ferrari, I'm quite excited about that. Hopefully it will work out good, and I think also like the BMW should be good, so me and Steinar should try to pick up some points at least. Other than that, now that I have my rig where I am currently living, I can practice to the next round, so I hope that I will be better prepared and probably manage to, hopefully, I will not, hopefully a P1. I will not be going for anything less in that race, I think, in the class, so that will be my goal.
I'm loving the spirit, and I do like the enthusiasm that comes with it. And we'll have to wait to see if you're able to make that win a reality. But just before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a special thank you to live on the broadcast this evening?
Yeah, Paul, I would like to thank my parents who are probably watching it, even though they should probably go to bed, and all of my teammates, and especially Steinar, who is my closest teammate in this series, for pushing me on practice and helping me with technical stuff and liveries and everything. He's a great lad, and a great thank you to all our team managers in Racing Lab AM, who is doing a great job for us so we can do what we like without having to think so much about the technical side of the things. So shout out to everybody there, and thank you, Paul, for again great broadcasting, and your commentary skills should be going somewhere. So I think maybe there is some commentators on the TV who is shaking when they see this broadcast, Paul.
Well, that's very kind of you to say, Simon Andre, but congratulations once again on a brilliant drive to a podium, despite your personal circumstances and the move, and I'm glad to hear it's gone so well, and also you've got such a great team behind you and family to go with it as well. But it's been great to see you out of the circuit at Watkins Glen, and we look forward to seeing you out of the circuit at Daytona in a week's time.
Thank you, Paul. Good night.
Have a great night. So here and there from our runner-up in the AM class today of Simon Andre, a lovely fellow, and I must say, absolutely chuffed with his performance. I think he can't quite believe he's been able to pull it off today, given everything. But as he was mentioned there, starting on the outside into turn at number 1, a difficult place to start and the worst place to start into 90 right, whereby on that outside line, felt the car being pulled away, and in the end, having his rivals get on through, and spending the majority of the opening stint chasing at James Conley, as we see them on the pictures here, and Conley again not quite on the pace compared to Livingston and indeed many of their counterparts, but the difference being Conley able to frustrate and be very defensive, and therefore having to play a strategic gamble of pitting one lap later, but Livingston was able to get the jump and then push on for that second place finish in class. And well, he's going for the win at Daytona. Time will tell if he's able to pull it off in the state of Florida, but with that confidence and enthusiasm, I definitely reckon he's going to give it one great shot, and I can imagine the Racing Lab AM1 team and the wider Lab AM outfit are going to be all behind him as he tries to make that a reality. And coming from our first interview of the day to our second interview, it's none other than Peter Cox from UKSimRacing Moss. And well, as he gets ready to join me in the interview room, in fact, he's already joining me in the interview room now. Good evening to you, Peter. And well, an unexpected win in class today after running for so long in P2. But I have to say, it didn't look easy to be second place, given the fact you spent the majority of the first stint in a long traffic jam behind one car piloted by Brandon Hay.
Well, it wasn't so much a traffic jam. That was a bloody good race. That was hard work. The first few laps. Credit to Brandon and Eric, who was the other guy we were racing with. It was awesome. It was like a game of bad chess, because like Eric would try and overtake Brandon, and because he couldn't, he'd have to slow. And so I'd get past Eric, and then I'd be behind Brandon, and I'd try and get past Brandon, and I couldn't. So I'd have to slow, and then Eric would get past me. But the first 14 laps, I was saying to the guys in the racing room, it was like, it's stressful but fun. But that was great. Really enjoyed that race.
I'm glad to hear it, and I can tell you one thing, in the commentary booth, it was absolutely spectacular seeing that back and forth like you described, 1 minute being close to the back of Brandon and the next minute having to worry about Eric behind. But preceding all of that, we start with qualifying, and well, for yourself, a P8 overall and a P2 in class. Looked as though you got the most out of the BMW available there, but by comparison to your counterparts, not quite able to get the pole.
No, I'm habitually a bad qualifier. I've tried various different things, and it's not working. I'm just still experimenting. I am getting faster, and I can do better. But for some odd reason, qualifying in race, maybe I'm choking. I have no idea. But there's a system I need to work out that I just haven't quite got to grips yet, because I'll habitually be out qualified by other guys and grid lower than the speed I know I've got in the car. So when you said when you said I qualified P2, I wasn't, I'm never worried about really where I qualified, because I'm pretty sure I'm fast enough to beat quite a lot of people, but qualifying is definitely not my strong point. Definitely not.
Oh, indeed. Well, you've got race winning pace, but not necessarily one lap pace to back it up. But still, like you say, you're working on that and it's something you're improving. So coming on to the mechanisms of the race itself, good start, albeit it did look as though it was very nip and tuck, but also a lot of drivers trying to play it safe on the open lap. I have to ask, did it feel as though it was going to get a little bit tricky through the S's on the cold tyres on the first lap?
So I don't know if you've done any VRS races, or whenever we go to Watkins, the last time we went to Watkins in the league, it was a disaster on the first lap. Most of the races you ever do at Watkins, carnage is odds on through the S's and up to the chicane. But credit to all the guys. The racing was good. Gave each other room. I think I've seen at least one incident that happened, but it is what it is. We were this was a good lap one for UKSR around here, and in fact a good lap one for any race around Watkins. There wasn't the carnage, so fantastic. And at that point, then I got embroiled in that Haig Rosef Cox battle, which was just a joy. It was just fantastic, back and forth. It was like gladiators slugging it out. That was fantastic. Credit to both of those guys for the good racing that they gave me. And then I managed to get behind Brandon before the pits, and then I managed to jump Brandon in the pits, and so did Eric. At which point it was then between me and Eric, and I think we were on similar pace. I think I was slightly faster, but I could just dial it down a bit and kind of and gap essentially. But that was hard work but fun.
Oh, 100%. As we continue to look at some of the pictures of the three of you battling, interesting to see how the BMWs of yourself and Hay versus the McLaren had their own strengths and weaknesses. And I have to ask, what did you find within the setup you had on the BMW perhaps gave you a bit of an advantage compared to the McLaren of what was Rosef behind, and also Hay, who seemed not to have the pace necessary but knew exactly where to put the car?
To be honest, I mean, I do my own setups. What I think is that I think everybody knows that 95% of it is actually how you drive versus the tiny bit of setup. So a bad setup is a bad setup, but if you get a moderately good setup and you can drive it, then it's actually more about the driver than the setup itself, and about getting the practice in and doing the laps and doing the hard work and doing the grind. Working out all the times when it's minimizing the mistakes, and when a mistake happens, recognize it as early as possible and back out of it and minimize the impact of that mistake. So it's not really the setup itself, although different cars obviously have different strengths, and the Beamer does seem to go well at Watkins. Having said that, the guys who won tonight were in Porsches.
Well, indeed, an interesting contrast there, given the balance of performance and the expectations of the cars versus the manufacturers that came out with the wins in the end. But with regards to coming back to the battle, we saw you go for a slightly different strategy compared to Hay, going a lap or two longer with Rosef in tow as well. And I have to ask, were you starting to worry that perhaps you'd be left in the pits, not necessarily by Hay, but by Rosef, because the two of you came out the pits practically side by side?
No, I wasn't worried. I was more worried about underfueling, to be honest. In fact, I think I overfueled by about 2 laps. Here it's not such a big problem. Say at the Nordschleife, that would be a big problem, and it was. But here, it wasn't such a big problem. I'm pretty good at fuel saving and tyre saving. I was doing micro saves all the time, both behind Eric and behind Brandon. You know, and you can tell when somebody's not going to be able to make it past you or give you problems at the next corner. At which point you just save fuel and you save tires. You know, rather than, you know, if you're not in with a chance of overtaking the guy in front, and you're not going to get punted or overtaken by the guy behind, well, best thing to do is to be as smooth as possible and just do kind of tiny little micro saves whenever you can.
And on that basis, we did see you make the jump over the pair of them in the pit lane and coming out in P2, clear track in front of you, albeit a lot of pressure still behind, but you very quickly went to work in breaking away, and then an unexpected reward for your efforts, taking the win.
Well, I think, yeah, commiserations to Thomas. I've seen both his instances. You know, he's not had much luck in the last few races. And apologies for Okayama, he said quietly. So yeah, so but this time it wasn't me. So that's the good news. And yes, it kind of that kind of fell into my lap. But and it's a shame because, you know, I always believe that even though I qualied badly all the time, and I was behind Brandon, and I knew I could get, if I got past Brandon, I knew I could break away. But that just wasn't to be. You know, I didn't want to endanger his race. I didn't want to punt him off or anything like that. So it was just a case of being patient. And if I got past him, then I could go and chase after the leading pack, which included Thomas Asfalg. But I think Thomas had his first incident on lap 11, at which point I thought, hey, up, that means that, and I think I'm right in saying that at that point, Brandon was in first in the pros, and I was the second, and I knew that I was faster than Brandon, and I knew that he was using his tyres more than me, and I knew that I was saving more than him as well. So at that point, I thought, well, here we go.
Well, indeed, and everything came together as the race went on and came together for what was another victory and making it now effectively 3 wins in class. And we have the season finale next week. Your championship leader by 20 points over Darren Sharples, and Daytona awaits. How are you feeling for the Florida State Circuit?
Well, I'm really looking forward to it because I'm going to be in Italy on holiday, so I'm not going to make Daytona, unfortunately. So it's a case of whether, I don't know, whether it's mathematically possible for anybody to beat me, and if they can on the night. So I'm not here. I would love to be here for Daytona and to help wrap up the season. Can I also give a shout out to the SimLab guys who are following me? I think it was Eric and maybe it was Simon or somebody else. But those guys work as a crew, and they were really effective in what they were doing. But yeah, Daytona, I can't be here, so what will be will be.
Well, we'll have to wait and see whether it's destiny for you to take the Pro Crown at Daytona whilst you're absent on the circuit, but at the same time, we'll miss seeing you there. And just before we do let you go, Peter, is there anybody beyond the Racing Lab AM crew of Eric Rosev and Oyvind Breivik that you'd also like to give a shout out or a thank you to?
Absolutely. So shout out to the UKSR karting team who did massive, great stuff over the weekend. Well done to you guys. There's UKSR racing team itself, both Moss and Hunt. So Rob was in tonight. He did fantastic work in supporting me. The rest of the team, both Marks, they couldn't make it. That's a shame, but you know, real life intervenes. They'll be back. Other than that, well, thank you to you, thank you to the organisers. Well done, Matty. Good first race.
Well, Peter, but it's been absolutely brilliant to have you in the interview this evening. Congratulations once again on your win in class today. And whilst we won't get to see you out on circuit at Daytona, we hope you have a lovely holiday, albeit don't tune into the broadcast with your fingernail biting too much, because you never know what could happen to the championship.
Oh, I'll be watching, don't you worry.
Well, you have a lovely evening.
See you, mate. Cheers.
So hearing there from Peter Cox, the pro driver for UKSimRacing Moss, making out another win, and with that 3 in his account for this season. And well, what a drive today. And as we've continued to look at the pictures in the background, this battle and the closest of it between Hay, Cox and what is there, Eric Rosev, in the fight for P2, really defining perhaps one of the ultimate aspects of the pro class this season. The close-knit pace, the close-knit battling, but the fairness of the racing all the way through. And that's exactly what we've wanted to see all season, and it has happened time and time again. But today Watkins Glen absolutely deliver it. And well, to liken his words there, it was like and Titans boxing it out and landing blows of one another and trying to find a way on through. And in the end, for Peter Cox, it was a strategy call that enabled him to jump out ahead of Hay and Eric Rosev right behind him, even though he overfueled, and then running on in P2 to find it would then be a win given the circumstances up the road, with Thomas Aspinall losing the lead come the last few laps. But now not in attendance at Daytona. Will it be a championship crown that will naturally become his, or will there be one last twist in the tail and he's not there to try and prevent that twist from unfolding? We'll have to wait and see in a week from now. But as we now come to our our third interview for the day, get our head in the right number. We now have an additional interview as well. We're going to be hearing very shortly from Martin Tilling, but we'll also be hearing later on from Rob Armstrong, the UKSimRacing Hunt driver, will be joining us in the interview room. But as we get ready to hear from the Tiki Simsport corporate driver of Martin Tilling, well, what a race it has been for him, in the fact that he spent the whole race trying to chase down our race winner Håkon Grebstad and able to keep it close all the way through, but never quite able to bring the delta down. And as he does get ready to join me in the interview room, it'll be interesting to hear on the knife edge of pace that he had to deliver from corner to corner, as he's now with me in the interview room. Good evening to you, Martin, and well, you huffed, you puffed, but you could never quite, in the words of Little Red Riding Hood, blow down, well, not the Little Red Riding Hood, my apologies, the Three Little Pigs, blow down the pace of Håkon Grebstad. But you gave him a good run for his money over 45 minutes of Watkins Glen. That looked tough out there.
I was surprised. I thought he had more pace. In practice, he was pretty close to me, and I was like, this can't be his race pace. I was thinking, is he really that slow this week? And we come to quali, and there was like, I don't even think it may be 2/10 between the top 3 of us. Ryan was pretty close to me as well. And I was like, are we seriously this close? And I was like, this has got a good chance this week. I'm like, ooh, rubbing my hands together, getting all wound up, and like, come on then, let's see it. And then I chickened out and run a safe set, had 9 wings, so I couldn't keep up on the straights, and he was gone. So.
Oh dear. Well, in the build-up, of course, we started off with the qualifying session, which saw, you, like you say, the top 3 separated by only 2 attempts in total, and yourself off a pole from Grebstad by what was, if my memory serves me correctly, 800ths in the end. Fine margins, and I have to ask, did you find the perfect lap out there?
No, I confess, in my practice, like my race fuel practice, when I was prior to the session opening, I actually did a 42.9 on full fuel, and that's the first time I've been in the car today, and I was like rubbing my hands together. I was like, really, I haven't been this quick all week. Coming to the session, it was really grippy, the track was good, the temps were low, it was really grippy out there, and I was like, oh wow, rubbing my hands together. Come through the practice session, seeing Håkon's pace, come through quali, I was like, oh my god, this is going to be real good fun. Come to the race, and I simply, in the first lap, made a really silly line through bus stop, I think it was. Or it was 1 or 2 laps after the start, I made a mistake, a bus stop, went wide through the carousel and just lost him completely from the toe, and then it was history from there.
It was very unfortunate the fact you weren't able to quite close down the deficit as time went on, but still carrying the pace, because you never know what can happen over 45 minutes of racing. And I have to ask, how did it feel in the Porsche out there, given this car not really the strongest on the straights, but very strong through momentum-based corners, and Watkins Glen full of those?
Yeah, it was. I said the difference between the setups, like the safe one I was running and the non-safe version, was 2 wing. It was 2 clicks of wing, but I was 80% chance of death on the other setup and 20% chance of surviving. Because during practice I was really bad with that set, and when I went to the safe set, it felt like the other way around. It was like 80% chance of survival, 20% chance of death. But I knew that with Håkon being quick, that choice between finishing quali and gridding up was like, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, pick a spider by its toe. If I don't die, which one should I take? Oh, I'll take that one. And I just chose the safe set, and it was, I mean, Håkon even said in the chat he was fuel saving, the end of this, like the end of the stint before the pit stop, I went from 4 seconds back to nearly a second and a half, or just over a second and a half. And we came in, and I was right up his backside. And then we came out really close, and then I thought I had a chance there. Coming out, I realised I had 3 litres extra of fuel. I was like, wow, I could have jumped in maybe if I didn't take so much. So I think everyone overfueled, I believe, because well, I don't know if it's caps. I use caps as my my fuel calc, but I was on the track and it was saying 26 laps total. And obviously when we pitted, I come out and it was saying 25. That's why I miscalculated by 1 lap. So I think maybe I didn't realise that's what caps was doing, because I think race labs was maybe different before. But yeah, I think I did the extra lap because it was running 3 litres a lap. So a bit gutted. I think I might have had a chance. Maybe if I didn't take so much, I could have been closer and maybe not made a mistake. It's really tough to drive in the dirty air around here, being that there's a lot of higher speed momentum corners that flow smoothly, and having that dirty air pretty close to a car ahead can upset the stability a little bit mid-corner, especially if you go offline and you get upset a little bit more by the turbulence as well. So it was hard to run close to him, but my overall pace wasn't quite there. I think I gave him a little scare, but I don't think I worried him too much today.
Oh, indeed, and keeping him honest all the way through, and I can see and now have confirmation that with the result from Håkon Grebstad, he's been able to take the championship a round early. But still, for your performance today, a round which has confirmed you moving up to P4 in the Elite Class Championship, and only 8 points off a second place driver Nathan Foster. It's all to play for the runner-up spot at Daytona in a week's time. And how are you feeling for the Florida State Circuit?
Oh, I'm flabbergasted. I realised after the race when I looked at it, and I was realising, hang on a sec, I could pin second here. And I got to put in the performance at Daytona. It is one of my favourite tracks, one of my most successful tracks, just not in the GCs. I must admit that LMPs was way more successful for me, but it's definitely a track I'm a fan of. I hope I can have the pace there. I mean, we'll see what happens. Håkon, if he turns up, probably going to win it. So again, that could be. I just got to make sure the gap is there. I can beat Nathan, and God forbid it happens, he has a DNF or something that could maybe pinch it. But an 8-point gap is maybe 4 positions. I think it's 2 points between positions. I think if I'm correct.
Yes.
So 4 positions I got to make on him. So if I can get any in the top 2 or 3, and if he's struggling or he doesn't get a good quali lap in, or can't get overtakes, or has an incident, or has to repair, or messes his pit stop up, or anything can happen. But that 4 positions could mean everything, and if it happens, I'll be over the moon, because the first half of the season was an absolute disaster, in my opinion, in terms of my quality of my racing.
Well, it's been a fantastic turnaround over the course of the season, and we're now really seeing you at your apex in terms of the performance, and we do look forward to seeing how you get on at Daytona and whether you can make that runner-up spot in the championship a reality. But just before we do let you go, Martin, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast this evening?
Yeah, just to Håkon and everyone else in the race tonight. It seemed really clean. I didn't see any incidents going on behind me, so it was a great start to the race. Really competitive from everyone. Håkon kept me honest, so great race from him. Just a shame I couldn't keep up. Tiki Boys, I know they weren't here today. They were, I believe they were doing a go-kart and event of some kind. So, I hope their race went well, and I didn't see much of it, but just hope they enjoyed themselves and they enjoyed the race tonight. Just hope I did one proud for the team.
Well, I'm sure the team will be proud of you, Martin, indeed. I think right now Greg may be watching from the sidelines and giving you a bit of a brief round of applause from the garage. But congratulations once again on your performance today. And we do look forward to seeing how you get on at Daytona in the season finale.
Thanks again, Paul. I look forward to watching the stream tomorrow morning. Can't wait. So thanks again. We'll see everyone next week.
Have a great evening.
You too, Paul. Take care.
So hearing there from Martin Tilling from the Elite class, and a very honest assessment of his performance today, and interesting with regards to how he analysed the start of the end of practice going into qualifying and the closeness of the pace between himself and Håkon Grebstad. Feeling as though there was a real opportunity today to go hunting, but admitting going into the race decided to go with a safe setup rather than risk running less rear wing and having a less stable car. And it was a gamble which in the end came back to bite him to a degree, as not quite having that potential additional pace to be able to go hunting. But what we saw in the pit lane, and indeed for many a driver, most drivers did take on a bit of extra fuel, but unnecessarily, and Tillin was one of many of them, and coming out just behind Grebstad, chased him to a degree, and we've seen that in the pictures in the background, but then Grebstad able to break away with the dirty air of these cars affecting one another in the run around these momentum-based corners at Watkins Glen, and in the end, Martin Tillin having to stay in P2 and just sit somewhere in the region of 1.5 to 2 seconds behind, eventually almost 3 seconds at the checker flag, and I hope there could be a mistake or an opportunity for him to creep back in. But sometimes that's the way it goes, but still, it does mean that whilst the championship win now is off the cards and off the table, with Grebstad taking that today, and we'll bring that in formally as of the end of next week's broadcast, still there's an opportunity for him to finish second, should he be able to outperform his rivals from P4 in the championship standings going into the round. And only time will tell whether the Tiki Simsport corporate driver can make that dream a reality. But as we come to our final interview of the day, we'll very shortly be hearing from Rob Armstrong, who'll be getting ready to join me in the interview room very shortly, and we'll be hearing his perspective on battling in the pro class from start to finish. And with regards to that battle for P2 that raged on for so long in the opening stages of the race, indeed that opening stint, but the Mercedes driver finding himself right in the thick of it between himself, Øyvind Breivik and Casper Brotner, and Richard Jones coming up gradually behind. But as Robert gets ready to join me, it was a fascinating one, also having to try and work with his teammate Peter Cox in that pack to gain a bit of time. But as he does join me now, good evening to you, Rob, and well, I appreciate your patience in waiting, but I can imagine you've needed a bit of a breather after today's race because it looked intense out there, and at any moment an opportunity to pick up P5 in the pro class was beckoning.
Oh, what a race! I hope it came across on the broadcast, but that was probably one of the most intense races I've been in this league. Yeah, been really close between the top. I mean, at times I was amazed to see that that we had the whole maybe 8 cars, I think, within 2 seconds. It was phenomenal. So close.
Well, indeed, phenomenally close racing in the opening stint in particular. But before we got to that racing, we had qualifying, and in qualifying, a P6 in class, P12 overall. But it was temps in the end that separated yourself in P6 versus what was P3 in the class on the grid. How was qualifying for you?
Qualifying went okay. I think that's probably one of my best laps I've had, but I haven't done a huge amount of practice. I've done one official race, but Watkins is one of my favourite tracks. I've historically had good results here. Qualifying has never been my strong point, but I got a clean lap. It came in okay. It was into the 1:43s, which was, it's a lot slower than some of the other fast guys, but for me it was okay. So yeah, I was quite happy to see that it turned into it was a P6 in class, so it was good not to be too far down the order. Give a good chance for not getting involved in anything that might happen through the S's.
100%, and then going into the race after what was a relatively steady start from everybody making their way up the hill onto the bus stop chicane for the first time, we very quickly saw a bit of a battle building for P4 in class between yourself, Øyvind Breivik, and also what was, I do believe, Casper Brotner, and then the three of you finding your way onto the back of the battle between Brandon Hay, Eric Rosev and Peter Cox, all for P2.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really have my eyes on trying to push for P2. I think the guys at the front of the class are just a little bit too fast for me, but I was keeping one eye on what was happening there because they were battling so hard through, and I thought at any time this track could be just full of spinning cars. But the rest of the time I was trying everything to get past. I tried insides, tried going around the outside, I tried cutbacks. But the nature of the track is, with lefts following rights for most of the track, you can get yourself down the inside and you think this could be it, but then you just go down the straight and the next corner is going the opposite way and they just pull away. But that's the nature of this track, and it's just excellent. It flows so well.
Oh, indeed, 100% in agreement with you on that. And with regards to the Mercedes specifically, we've seen this car all season be very strong in the acceleration zones, but it looked as though in the corners state it didn't quite have perhaps the pace of some of its peers.
Difficult to tell. I felt getting out the end of the lap, I seemed to not be able to keep on the back of the guy ahead, but then some of the places, like actually going through the bus stop, I felt I was stronger there, and then the approach to the corner at the end of the chute. It was okay. I mean, I haven't driven many of the other cars, so the Mercedes is pretty much all I know. So I just go with the flow of how it handles.
Oh, indeed, and one other thing as well, we talked about this at the start of the broadcast, the lovely sound of the 6.3 litre V8 engine always roaring around any given circuit at a given point in time. But coming back to the battle between yourself and also the likes of Håkon Grebstad, we saw the pit stops playing out, and it seems as though at that point the field started to split open to a degree. You found yourself running in P5 in class and really having to fight for the right to chase down Grebstad towards the end of the race.
Yeah, it was quite scary going into the pits when we did, with so many cars trying to hit the pit lane speed limit line. It looked that Owen got a bit caught up, so I tried a slightly cheeky round the outside, and then nearly messed it all back up by missing the line. I got the speed down enough, and I was glad to see that I didn't get a penalty. But then it looks like I might have took a little bit too much fuel, because I think Darren Sharple's got the jump on me in the pits, and yeah, after the pit stops, it was clear that we'd introduced a lot of gaps. In other words, either some overfueling or people had been saving fuel while stuck in that massive traffic jam that went on for, well, the majority of the race until the pits.
Oh, indeed, and with the battle into the pit lane, we did see the long conflagration of your pro class peers and yourself all having to stop for the line. And with Darren Sharples jumping ahead, albeit at the point of the exit of the pit, he fell by the wayside after an incident, and then you're able to just carry the speed on through to that P5 finish. I have to ask, as the race went on towards its conclusion, did you start to just settle down for the position, or were you still pushing, thinking there might be another opportunity to go for P4?
Oh, I found in the past, if I back off, I tend to fall off the track, so I just pushed until the end. I thought I was a little faster than Breivik, but once we did the pits, he had the same pace as me, or just enough in the right places. I was sad to see Darren fall off the track at the bus stop though, because he'd been right on our tail throughout the start of the race, and you never want to make a position by somebody falling off the track like that. So it's a shame for him, but oh well, one extra spot.
True, I agree with you there, and with the extra spot you're able to pick up today, you find yourself P7 in the Pro Championship, heading to Daytona for the season finale in a week's time. There's an opportunity for you to finish P6 ahead of Håkon Grebstad and Richard Jones. The battle's on, and how are you feeling for the season finale?
I think I'm looking forward to it. Daytona done okay in the past in the GT3 there. Hopefully got some time to practice. Maybe do a couple of officials, and providing we can all keep it clean through the first corners, I think it'll be an excellent race.
Well, Rob, we do look forward to seeing you out on circuit in the Florida State a week from now. But just before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast this evening?
Yeah, sure. So I'll do a shout out to my wife Sarah, my sons James and Peter. We've been out for a great day out, and this has been a good end to that day.
Oh, that's absolutely fantastic to hear. A great end to the weekend with a solid performance from yourself. Congratulations once again on your P5 in class and P10 overall, and we'll see you in a week's time at Daytona.
Cheers, Bob. Good pleasure.
Have a great evening.
Cheers, bye.
So hearing there from Rob Armstrong, the pro driver, and our fourth and final interviewee, the UKSimRacing Hunt driver, having a solid day today, and in his own words, going with the flow in the Mercedes AMG Evo and having a great run with it. Focusing on just keeping the car on the straight and narrow and battling for what was a top 5 finish in the pro class, and find himself gradually being into the mould of that P2 battle of what was a grand total of 7 cars in the end, albeit some drivers fell by the wayside and some, in the other hand, broke away. But for Rob, it was all about just focusing on doing what he could do, and that was keeping the car right behind the likes of Darren Sharples and Øyvind Breivik. But with Sharples falling off the circuit at the bus stop chicane on the second stint, in the end it would be a P5 for the Mercedes driver, and now have an opportunity to finish inside the top 6 at Daytona in the championship, where it's all on there, albeit between him and Richard Jones, it's no points between them, it's a result count back, and Øyvind Breivik is 6 points ahead, so the UKSimRacing Hunt driver is definitely going to have to go for gold if he wants to try and end his championship on the highest possible spot in the championship standings. But as we conclude our interviews, ladies and gentlemen, let's just say thank you once again to all 4 of our drivers for volunteering tonight, and they have included, and you've heard from most recently, Rob Armstrong for UKSimRacing Hunt. Previously, we also heard from the elite driver of Martin Tilling, the TE Simsport Corporate driver in the number 91 at the Porsche, I should say, not BMW. And then we heard from the BMW driver in the Pro class, much like Rob Armstrong, for UKSimRacing Moss's Peter Cox there. And then we also heard from originally the AM class driver in the number 3 Ferrari of Seaman Andre Livingston, and the Racing Lab AM1 driver, absolutely ecstatic with his performance. Congratulations to all 4 of them, and thank you to them for joining me in the interview room. But with that, it is now time to give you an update on the championship standings. We're a round to go, and well, without further ado, we start off with the elite class. Now, we do remind you these results are provisional, subject to any post-race stewarding and subsequent penalties that may be applied. But in the elite class, Håkon Grebstad on 203 points. It is confirmed that he will be your championship winner with a round to spare. And the Ignium Motorsport driver there delivering on what has been a solid run of races. And what started off was a multitude of podiums, but in the end, finally making it 3 wins in a row, dating back to round number 5 in Road America. A fantastic set of drives. And well, we can expect him out of the circuit next week, and he'll go for the quartet of wins, and with that end the championship on what is the ultimate gold medal, if you will. Behind him, the battle for P2 is on, however. Nathan Foster for Empire Motorsport B holds the second place position on 166 points, with 161 to Sam Congreve, but the Empire Motorsport A driver not expected to attend any more rounds in the season. Therefore, it falls to Martin Tilling, who is a further 8 points behind, to try and bring down the second place that's held by Foster. But for Tilling to do so, he's going to, as he correctly surmised, finish multiple places ahead, a grand total 4 places ahead, and for Foster to lose out by comparison. But meanwhile, Ryan Davies there in P5 for Tiki Simsport Kimi, behind his Cooper sister teammate and holding on to that P5 position, 6 points behind Tilling, and may still be looking to get one up on his team rival before all is said and done. Alexander or Xander Hill, depending on your preference, P6 there for Tiki Simsport, 140 points. Hill will look to be safe there in P6, albeit 10 points between him and Darren Norquette. Could the Racing Forces drive find a way to jump over come the end? But I think for Norquette, he'll be looking behind more so, with John Edos to Tiki Simsport Kimi and Tiki Simsport Corpus Nick Wren not too far off, 4 points behind the trio. And it's Mark Davison who completes the top 10 on 92 points there, and that'll be the best place he can achieve come the end of the season, as we're to understand it based on the maths, with Travis Wallace P11 for Tiki Simsport Tire, best of the rest on 90, and then it is it's 24 points to Philip Schwerker in P12, head of Joe Newman for Empire Motorsport A, Jacko Taylor for Tiki Simsport, and Racing Forces Carl McGirt, who complete your top 15. Symphony Esport Whites, Jonathan Hitchin P16, ahead of the privateers of Reece Saunders, Alvaro Marinero, David Flanagan, and Cy Anthony, and then Austin Tim William Campbell for Symphony Esport White complete your standings P21. But as we then come to the Pro class, meanwhile the complexion here, it's not quite all said and done. Albeit Peter Cox has one hand on the crown with a 20-point advantage for UKSimRacing Moss, but statistically it is still possible, based on drop scores, for Darren Sharples to take the championship with a 20-point overhaul versus Peter Cox, as we're to understand it. But we'll have to wait to see if that's how it plays out in practice. Brandon Hay, a further what is there, 14 points behind. The privateer from Newbridge Esports will be going hunting after that second place, but more focused on holding on to P3, I reckon, with Tos Aspalga in P4 there. With those lost results, I'll be looking to try and make it another win at the third time of trying. The Racing Nav Am driver only 3 points clear from his teammate Matt Strand, and a further 20 points to the third Racing Nav Am driver in the group there, P6 of Oyvind Breivik. And Breivik now in a battle to hold on to P6 ahead of Rob Armstrong for UKSimRacing Hunt and Richard Jones, the privateer from Honers Racing. But Casper Brotner for Old Dudes in Cars can also get into that fight there on 128 points. Indeed, the battle for P6 with only 8 points separated the quartet is going to be spicy. P10 Paul Robson for CHR Motorsport on equal points to his teammate James Rankin, but ahead based on result countback. And it's Nathan J. Scott P12 for Empire Motorsport B, ahead of Eric Rosev, with then David Larson P14, Ollie Pimley at P15, the Symphonite White and Symphonite Black esports drivers there continuing their run outside the top 10. And then Tony D. Hobbs P16, the privateer, ahead of Empire Motorsport B's Billy Bob Ray, with Darren Fellows for BDM Racing and Daniel Merchant for Tiki Simsport completing the standings. We then come to the AM class, and in our final Drivers' Championship, it's Daniel Pays now who finds himself at the top of the standings, albeit by only 5 points. Now this means it's going to be between Pays and Johnson for the crown in the AM class. Pays has the advantage, but we do have to keep in mind that Johnson will be now coming back in fighting fit form for the final race of the season. He's had a week's break, he's been able to afford himself that, but can Pays stay one step ahead and make what he never expected to happen become a reality, which is to take the AM crown. Steinar Sani in P3 on 174 points. Well, he may not be able to take the crown, but he could be a player in that battle, given the fact he's still hunting his first win of the season and eager for it for Racing Ab AM 1, and the same for Matt Maddox for BDM Racing. Albeit the pair both on 174 points, they'll both be looking for a win for their own selfish needs of trying to hold on to P3 in the championship, with John Doe a further 2 points behind and will need to bounce back after the early retirement from today. The Tiki Simsport Kimi driver holding a 9-point advantage over Simon Andre Livingston from Racing Lab M1, whose performance today to move into P6 does mean that he's also in the hunt for that third place spot. And let's not count out James Conley on 162 points, a further point behind, but we currently do have a grand total of what is there 5 drivers all looking at P3 in the championship. Marvin Cruz in P8 there, the privateer having a great performance all season. That consistency means now he is 22 points clear of Thomas Barjuk, with Satinder Deansert completing a top 10 for Tiki Simsport Corpa. And then we do have best of the rest there, Jack Wynn for Westy Race in P11, ahead of the Tiki Simsport Tower pair of Frank Klein and Simon Hartley. P14, it's Joe Pinder for Ignium Motorsport, with John Raldridge completing your top 15 for Revolution Sim Racing. And it's the privateers and Matt Edmondson and Tony Bradley, ahead of P18 driver Eric Stegen for Racing Lab AM1, and then Ben Watkinson for Revolution Sim Racing, and Baz Meacham complete your AM standings. And then lastly, coming on to the Teams Championship, we can see here at the top, the battle is on still for the crown, albeit UKSimRacing Moss do have an advantage of 26 points over Racing Lab M1, and much like with regards to their drivers in the Pro Championship, well, right now it does look as though UKSimRacing Moss already have one hand on the championship, but will we see Racing Lab M1 pull a turnaround in the finale? Tiki Simsport Kimi will also be looking for that runner-up spot on 324 points, and they also have an outside chance of taking the crown, as do Racing Lab AM, a further point behind, so it's close to that battle for P2, if not the crown in its entirety. And then Old Dudes and Cars completes the top 5 there on 303 points, 23 points clear of Empire Motorsport B, and Old Dudes and Cars' consistency and resilience really shining through, but with Tiki Simsport Copa in P7 only 4 points off the Empire Motorsport outfit, they'll be looking to try and jump into P6 as a minimum. Indian Motorsport, Empire Motorsport A, and Tiki Simsport Tower complete your top 10, albeit with the points they're slightly mixed up, and I believe they'll be corrected in the near future. And it's CHR Motorsport Best of SP11 trying to break into the top 10 in Florida, with UKSimRacing Hunt P12, ahead of Tiki Simsport, BDM Racing, and Racing Forces who complete your top 15. And it's Symphonite Esports White, Westy Racing, Symphonite Black, and Revolution Sim Racing who complete your team's standings. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's a recap of the standings, provisional subject to post-race stewarding. But it does mean it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show and you want to know more about the UK sim racing community, perhaps you want to be on the grid for a future season of the GT3 League, or you want to know a little bit more about other series, or perhaps you just want to get to know the guys and girls that are part of the UK sim racing community from admins to members, more to do all that and more, firstly you can head to our official website, and that may be found at uksimracing.co.uk. You saw the website earlier on screen? If you don't necessarily want to go to our website and you want to follow us on social media instead, we strongly suggest you follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/UKSimRacing_, where you can keep up to date with all the latest episodes and escapades of the official UK Sim Racing esports teams and upcoming series. We'd also like to take a moment to give a big thank you to our affiliates, of which we do have 5. We start off with Swillow Ameda Sim Racing Coaching, the creator of the Motor Racing Checklist. Swillow Ameda Sim Racing Coaching can help take your sim racing driving to the next level. Whether you're looking to gain a 10th, improve your approach to the racing line, or develop your consistency, Swillow Ameda has a coaching course to meet your needs. Plus, with Swillow being a multi-time champion of official iRacing series, including the 2021 PSCC, you know you're receiving coaching for the very best in the industry. We also have Race Anywhere, the provider of curated sim racing equipment, and to only stock products that represent excellent value for the sim racing community. Also, Demon Tweaks, the provider of the most complete and innovative motorsport product range available worldwide, so no matter what your level of discipline and whether it's real world or virtual motorsport, Demon Tweets could help drive you to realise your motorsporting ambitions. And then we also have SimLab, the leading manufacturer of high quality sim racing related hardware. As a proud partner of Mercedes AMG Petronas Esports, SimLab aims to enhance virtual racing experiences with uncompromising solutions that push the boundaries of esports. And lastly, Amazon, the company striving to be the Earth's most customer centric company, the Earth's best employer, and the Earth's safest place to work, through the provision of concepts pioneered by Amazon, including but not limited to Amazon's one-click shopping, Amazon Prime, and Amazon Web Services. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, attention now turns to the season finale. It'll be round 8 of 8 next weekend on Sunday the 4th of June, and we bring the curtain down and all the season to a close at none other than the legendary Daytona International Speedway. And they say that no championship campaign is complete without a win at Daytona, and who in each of our classes will find that win. Time will tell in a week from now, but until then, we have been UK Sim Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.